Well, it's Wednesday evening, and we are live from the basement. Welcome, everybody. Slightly different panel today.
Yep.
Alex, welcome as usual. Thank you for hosting last week, sir.
Of course, always. It's a ton of fun. Always happy to join and host when I need to.
Well, that's good. I had to work, so I have to babysit my boss when he decides to come to town. So, uh, welcome our other substitute panelists this evening. Head hoser Joe from Racer Records and
Hoser.
Music Talk with John. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. Jason has this stupid idea that camping is a good idea, so he's doing that, and Sam is doing 4th of July kind of stuff. So we thought we would recruit a couple subs, as I often do, and to answer Cardboard Head Guy's question. The topic tonight is patriotic celebration of binational independence. That's what I've decided to call this evening.
There you go. That's nice.
Right?
Wow. Very nice.
In other words, Independence Day in America, July the 4th, is tomorrow. We just celebrated Canada Day on July the 1st, which is essentially our Independence Day, when we were granted independence from England in 1867. So it is fitting that tonight we have 2 Americans and 2 Canadians on the panel, and we're going to talk about our respective favorite artists from the country in which we reside.
Yep.
So I think that's kind of our loose topic this evening. So hello, Richard and Cardboard Head Guy and Trevor. And yeah, so how's this week been, guys? A small holiday for us. We get 1 day. You guys get like 2 or 3 off, don't you?
No, I think people get it off, right?
Depends on employer. I mean, it is a national holiday, and so I think depending on again an employer, I think a lot of people I know do have it off. And then depending on the type of employer it is, some will say, "Oh, if it falls on a Thursday, we'll also give you Friday off to enjoy." I'm lucky that they decided to give me the whole week off, but I don't get paid very much money. So before people are like, wow, like what a deal that is. Like, it's one of these things of like, you know what, I kind of take it on the chin and like salary and benefits, but I get the week of 4th of July off. So,
That's cool.
There you go.
Such is life.
Yeah, if you work at a bank, I guess you get the day off. Or the post.
If you ever want to not get a good night's sleep, you stay in Upper Michigan the night before July the 4th, because every firework in the world is set off the night before July the 4th, and then they're set off all again. But Joanne and I went to Ottawa last year, and we dipped down in through the States, and we were in, I can't remember the small town in northern Michigan, on the 3rd, and it started at about, 8 in the bright light, and then it went till I think like July the 4th. And there was fireworks constantly. So it was cool. And all the way driving through the Dakotas and driving through where the hell else did we drive through? Minneapolis, and that there were fireworks places to buy fireworks and stuff.
Oh,
so
yeah.
y'all take your fireworks seriously down there.
Yeah, you just have to come to my house for that, because they've been going off for like 3 days now, and they wait till like midnight just to get the practice in. So
Yeah.
so I just can't hear them right now. Yep.
None of this was scheduled or probably legal, or there were no people with fire extinguishers around. It just started, and then it just went, and they were over there, and then they were over there, and then they were over there. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I like watching the news and doing the finger count, see how many fingers were lost from like the week before to the week after 4th of July. Yeah, little drinking involved with the fireworks. That's always a good mix.
Sometimes.
Absolutely. Joe, important question. How's the record store going?
The record store is going well. Continues to be busy.
You did your first Saturday, right?
We did, yeah, and it was steady. It was good. I think the last time I was on, it was coming up that Saturday, and 9 to 5, Monday to Friday works, but it doesn't work for everyone. So it was pretty steady on the Saturday. It was good. Still working on that big new collection that I bought. Just trying to get it cataloged and figure out what's all there. But yeah, new people in every day. regulars keep coming back, not every day, but once a week, and they keep going back through things, and it's been really good. It's been fantastic, actually. I think anyway. You'd have to ask the boss, because I'm not really the boss. I'm the kind of the boss of the vinyl department, but it's within another shop. So I think he's happy. He hasn't told me where to go for a couple of days, so that's always a positive thing.
There you go.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So the store's open 9 to 5?
Yeah, like it's again, it's a shop, audio video shop. We do installs, home theater, all of that, whole home audio. So it's open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And the shop is within that shop. So we're not, necessarily independent from it, but we are going to try and open at least one Saturday a month. So we're not every Saturday, which, probably doesn't bode well, but if we kind of make it special once a Saturday a month, then it'll be a little special, and kind of, we'll do some different things. We'll sell some hot dogs, do that. We haven't had our grand opening yet, which is planned for maybe in August. Again, a Saturday, get a band in the parking lot and do those types of things. So, we're not shipping, we're not doing any of that. We're not open as much as we probably should be. But with all of that said, it's still doing pretty well. So we'll see in the fall. Maybe in the fall it'll be every Saturday, but for now, one Saturday a month, and then the 9 to 5. So, which is working, kind of.
So are stores where you are, Alex and Rob, what are your, like, I normally see they open about 11, they close about 6 or 7, and they usually close like Monday, Tuesday.
Yep, same here.
So okay. So I'm just wondering. Yeah, I know you guys are doing something different, Joe, but I didn't know if like what the standard was in different areas.
Yeah, and there are other shops that is more the case. Again,
Okay.
we're just kind of a shop within the shop.
Yeah.
So not tied to their hours, but somewhat tied to the hours of the main shop. And then, maybe a Thursday evening and a Saturday again once a month. So it's been good. So
Cool.
yeah.
Let's see here. A few more folks have joined us. FVA, welcome, sir.
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
bars and brew houses are open tomorrow, huh? Aren't they always? Remember, fireworks quarantine started early June and kept going till August. Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. Music Sanctuary, good evening. Hours definitely depend on the size of the store and the city. Yeah, that's true.
That's what I was going to add was, some of our stores are open 362 days a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
From 10 to 8, basically. And other ones are owned by, mom and pop who take exactly Monday and Tuesday and sometimes Sunday off. And sometimes they open late and sometimes they close early and, that sort of thing. So it kind of depends on the staffing and all that. But yeah, most of our places are open 7 days a week, usually about kind of that 11 to 7-ish sort of range.
So those are chains, more of like a chain established chain, or
no? I mean, they're fully independent record stores.
Oh.
They're just bigger and have more staff and
Right.
that sort of stuff. It'd be like, I don't want to compare it to like Amoeba because I guess they haven't really become a chain, but like that is something that is more. What was that?
what are you drinking there, Rob? No, I'm laughing at Rob because
I'm drinking water.
Northern Revolution's thing popped
Look at
up.
that! Wow,
Very nice.
how
Very
about it?
nice. We've got the luxury of the lights are already on and the heat's already on and everything. So our overhead, the stores that maybe need to be open a little more to be open and sell a bit more. Not to say we don't want to sell, but
Right.
part of it is to bring people in for the 2-channel, the amplifiers and the turntables and things like that.
Has that worked? Has that generated some interest in other stuff?
It has, yeah, a little bit for sure. Sold a couple of sets of speakers here and there that probably would have anyway, maybe not. But I think, yeah, there's definitely some people that have come in specific for the vinyl, but then the guys have also shown them some of the 2-channel stuff. And we've sold a couple more turntables and we're doing some cartridges now that we weren't really selling a lot before, but people are coming in and, hey, do you guys do cartridges? So we're Odophon and we do regas and things like that. We're setting up turntables. We even offer a cleaning service for your records. I'll ultrasonically clean them and give you new sleeve, give you new outer, new inner, and do all of that as well.
What about doing turntable repair? Because there's a lot of people that'll buy, 20-year-old turntables, 30-year-old turntables, and it needs a new belt, needs a new cartridge, the motor might, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
you guys are probably equipped to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm not to a level of feeling comfortable with working on motors and things like that. But again, I've been changing cartridges and belts and things like that, and doing tune-ups. Getting the weights correct and things like that. So started to do a little bit of that. We haven't had a lot of call yet, but again, it was just May 10th, so
yeah,
it's only been coming up on a couple of months. But and we've started to do a little more of that, and I'm comfortable to a certain extent. I'm not going to start soldering though. So
no, but I think that's a great service to do that. Because I know, like over at the In Groove, he'll offer that service for anything he ships out. They'll go ahead and open it up, clean your record for you, and send it out. Yeah, and it's only a couple bucks here and there. So I think that's a great service because a lot of people can't afford those big, good machines. So yeah, I think that's a great service.
Yeah. So it's been it's all growing and changing as we go along. So it's been great.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Yeah, it's fun.
Music Sanctuary says his local store ran a 20% off sale of the past long weekend, and they did quite well. That'd be dangerous. If there's a 20% sale at my local, I'd probably spend too much money. So,
yeah, that's dangerous when they run sales.
Dangerous. Do you find, Joe, since you're the guy buying the collections and curating them and sorting them and cleaning them, do you ever have to resist the temptation? Like, well, I need that. I better keep that. What comes first, Joe or the store?
The store, actually, for now. So there's been a couple that have almost come home, but for now it's the store. There hasn't been anything, and I mean I could buy it, I guess, if I really wanted to. I could pay what I would charge retail if I wanted to and bring it home. So, but for the most part, the store is coming first. There hasn't been that I really need to have that yet. I'm sure it'll come, but.
Yeah, there's been a couple albums when I do the weekly video over there, Kingfish. I'm like, yeah, let's not even put that one in the video because it ain't going to be there when they go in.
When I'm done this video, it's going home.
Yeah, exactly. There's a little bit of that, a little bit. So I do a bunch of Facebook posts and things like that, and I always put, available as of this post. It doesn't mean that it's always going to be there, but when I post it, it's there. So.
Yeah. I have a feeling they're ordering certain records knowing I can't resist it. Like,
for sure.
Neil Young came out last week. Do you have this one? I'm like, oh, you guys suck. So they know. I think they got me a little bit.
This collection that I bought, not to get off topic, but there's a fair bit of country in it. And when I say country, I mean like Merle Haggard and Conway Twitty and George Jones and that. There's some call for that. I don't know if you guys listen to any of that or if you have any if you've looked for that at all, but there's some call for that a little bit more again. And some of these things are in pristine shape, like they never got played. And I just wasn't sure if there was call amongst you guys for that type of stuff.
Well, what you don't know is Alex doesn't normally wear it, but he's got a big 10-gallon hat and rattlesnake skin cowboy boots.
He's wearing chaps right now.
And assless chaps. Yeah.
And assless chaps, yeah.
Well, that's just normal attire anyway, but yeah.
Anyway. Yeah.
Switch gears a little bit. Alex, how was the Rolling Stones?
Oh man, it was.
I don't want to steal the thunder if you're doing a video, or maybe I've.
Oh no, yeah, we'll do a video. We'll do like a group video. But I mean, the show is just amazing and just kind of surreal seeing those cats up there. And I mean, Mick Jagger is just a freak of nature to me, man. Like, people have seen all the videos and stuff of him still, doing his thing at his age, but to kind of also see it live was just crazy. I mean, just a great production, sounded great, all things considered, sounded great, you know what I mean? Great band, all that kind of stuff. So that was great. And it was cool. Obviously went up there with Emma from 8 Vinyl Low, and then we got a chance to meet up with Vance from Zepp Earl, He's in the Chicagoland area, so it was really cool to meet up with him in person, meet him for the first time. So sounds like us three are going to do a kind of like a group concert review sort of video here in the next couple days. But yeah, I mean, just so glad to do it. And, it really was like a bucket list thing, and probably won't have a chance to do that ever again. So it's, for me, I'm just like, if you can, like, if you have the resources and you can, like, always go to the show. That's kind of my thing. Like, just do it. And so, yeah, really happy we did it. And it was just an amazing time. So
Very cool.
Who was the opener that time at your show?
the opener was Lainey Wilson.
Okay.
Country?
Who is a current country artist.
She's the one with the kind of like the pretty formed body, like the tight pants.
The pretty formed body would be one.
I would say, yeah.
Right? Okay.
Um,
You kind of forget she's singing when she's running around.
I mean, I would say actually kind of full circle, like, you mentioning country. It's not my thing. And so I'm not going to, I can't be like, oh, she was terrible. I think it was a very interesting choice. It's like, I get it. Like, it's about exposure. It's about all those different things. I just thought it was a very interesting choice to have open. It wasn't necessarily for me, but, cool. And then she came out and sang, Dead Flowers, which was kind of neat. But, it would have been cool to get like a Gary Clark Jr. or something.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Or, any other band in the world. But, she's one of these people, like, the people who love her.
Well, she's modern country and it's borderline pop. Even though she's got a pretty good heavy twang to her voice, it's still modern country.
For sure. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, guys, should we jump into the topic for the week?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm prepared enough for this.
I love that John, for those watching that didn't know, an hour and a half ago, John goes live to film his preparation for this video. And halfway through it, I messaged and I went, prep? I'm going to pull records 10 minutes before we go live. There's no prep here. What do you think this is?
This is very serious for me, Rob. It's very serious.
Well, I appreciate that you take this seriously. You probably put more effort in tonight than Alex and I probably have since we've been doing this. So
you guys are going to pull it off better than I will. Watch. Here you go.
I don't know about that. So in that regard, then, since John has done all this prep,
Oh, no.
you want to go first and set the bar pretty high for us?
Yeah, we're going to start off with a jazz artist.
Just to recap for everybody, we're talking about our favorite artists, be it bands, singers, whatever, from our respective countries. So Joe and I from Canada and Alex and John from the U.S. in honor of both of our countries' independences, which occurred this week in anniversary of. So take it away, John.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let Alex tell you.
Make it big first. Hold on.
Let Alex tell you who my first artist is. I'm going to pull up here.
Billy Joel.
No, we're jazz. Jazz, John.
Jazz.
Well,
okay.
I would guess, John, we were talking, John's a big fan. And in fact, this is what got him into jazz, of jazz drummers. And when you talk about jazz drummers, I don't think there's anybody better or more prolific or important to the genre potentially than one Art Blakey. Okay, there it is.
Yeah. Now, and I was going to start this with, he's the man with the big smile. And then I'm looking at the cover of this Moanin' album.
Mm-hmm.
Art, you just let me down, buddy. So I noticed that, so I had to grab this one. There you go.
There you go.
I'm really reflecting tonight. But yeah, he has that huge smile. You can tell he's always just enjoying himself when he played. And he was unique in a way because the Jazz Messengers, I think he started it with Horace Silver way back in the day. And it kind of became a gateway for new jazz artists. And the Jazz Messengers changed through the years. So you had big names coming out through there. So he would give them this opportunity to grow and understand what it means to be in a jazz band. And then when he felt they were ready to go and kind of lead their own band, he kind of encouraged them to move on and become a solo artist, and he'd bring a new guy in. So he kind of did that I think he did it for like about 35 years. But when I looked him up, and I was going to let you know, because he's an American artist, and he was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I want to make it clear where in the States he came from. But he actually was a horrible piano player at first, and he played these little dive jazz bars or whatever. And supposedly they say the story's kind of skewed, but one night, I wrote the dude's name, Earl Garner was coming in, which is a really good jazz pianist. And basically at gunpoint, he says, he told Art Blakey to go start playing drums. So somewhere in the 30s, he switched over to drums because of that demand and became a jazz drummer. So, but he's got a lot of great hits. Moanin' is a big hit for him. Mosaic, Free for All, just really good songs. So that's my first dude, Art Blakey, jazz.
Very good.
Cool.
Joe,
Nailed it.
we'll alternate Canadian American, Canadian American.
All right. So
As is tradition.
Well,
one of the very few things that I retained from school, that's not true. I paid attention. I don't know if I retained. Anyway, was along the lines, and we all get along wonderfully here when we do these shows. But back in the day, Canadians and Americans didn't necessarily always get along, and there was the term 54-40 or fight. Does anybody know that one? Anyway, no?
What is it?
yes. Do you want me to explain the history behind
Sure,
that?
yeah, you do it. Yeah, go ahead.
Essentially, there was I have a history degree, so I could probably write a paper about this. There was a dispute about the border between the U.S. and Canada when it was at that time, it was the Oregon Territory before Washington was actually a state. And the Americans felt that the border should be drawn at far north of the 49th parallel where it currently is, 54 degrees north, 40 minutes. And the British said it should be at the 49th parallel where it currently is. And the rallying cry was 54-40 or fight.
Okay.
And
that kind of rings a bell.
And my first band is 54-40.
Oh, well, there you go.
Which I'm not sure will mean anything to you guys. They're one of the Canadian acts that have been around for a long time. This album, 86, I think. But I don't know of any traction in the States. Not positive of that, but I don't think any traction there. One somewhat claim to fame in the U.S. is on this album. Or no, was it this one? No, it's actually this one. The song I Go Blind by Hootie and the Blowfish is actually a 54-40 song. And in fact, I think that he sings background on the Hootie and the Blowfish version, I think. I'm not positive of that. I've always thought that, and I've never bothered to look that fact up. So I'm just going to say it, and if it's bullshit, it is. But and what made me think of these guys, and I have always really enjoyed these guys, is I actually saw them on Canada Day. We have a big party in the park, and there's always a free band. And this year it was these guys. And they played for an hour and about 50 minutes. And they're one of those bands that you go, or at least I did, and I shouldn't, but I went, oh, yeah, I remember that song. Oh, yeah, I remember that song. They played two songs that I was, vaguely familiar with that were kind of album cuts, but everything else was a hit for these guys. And Baby Ran back to 1986. They did that. They did I Go Blind. That was kind of their closer. They've even got a new album out, and they've got a new song, and I haven't heard it in its entirety other than when they played it. It's called West Coast Band. And the line I remember in the song is, we're a West Coast band driving in our Econoline van. It's talking about being on the road. So, and I think that is perfect. You can just, in my mind, you see 6 guys in the back of an Econoline van going across the great expanse that is Canada. But this one, One Gun, One Day in Your Life, One Gun, a little bit of a political song, pretty good song, actually, very good song. I wish I had a little bit more of their catalog, but those are the 2 I have from them. But great band. And again, for our American friends and family and viewers, the song I Go Blind by Hootie and the Blowfish, which I'm sure you've heard, is actually a 54-40 penned song.
So are they power pop kind of music?
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. Rob?
I don't know. I think they're kind of a slightly poppier version of Uncle Tupelo.
Yeah, you could. I
Okay.
would compare them a little bit to the Black Crows, and the only reason I
Sure.
say that a
Really?
little
That's
bit
fair.
is because the keyboards really came through the other night and sounded fantastic. So there's a lot of keyboards, a little bit of saxophone, not on a lot of songs, but a little bit of saxophone in there. But alternative, just really, really good. I think you guys would like them if you gave them a little bit of a shot. So there you go, 5440, no fight today, just 5440.
Yeah, I'm gonna check them out. Sounds interesting. Okay, can you take the hamster?
No.
Okay. Gonna
I want
crap.
to see
on
it
my
crap
head.
on your head.
I know, I'm waiting for like
No,
hamster
she's well
pee.
trained.
Yeah, she's trained all right. They have
We
no
want,
brain.
we want to see pooping live on screen.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
live
Only
rope.
from the pet, though, John, not from you.
Oh, come on, man. Having fun in here.
Richard says he's got a few 5440 albums, only discovered them about 10 years ago. I've not seen them. Like, they're squarely in the middle of my wheelhouse for sure.
Yeah.
I have a couple albums. The only one I have on vinyl is the one that Joe showed.
Yeah.
I was
Out of-
hoping you'd show them so I didn't have to talk about them, but
West
that's why I
Coast.
didn't pull it initially.
I don't think you've ever brought them up. I
I
that I
may have
read.
mentioned them at one point in time, but I maybe not. My regret is I had tickets to see them once. They came to the city that I live in when I was probably in university, so 25 years ago. That makes me feel old.
Yeah.
And I got a free ticket to go, and I didn't end up going for whatever reason, and I've kicked myself ever since because they've not come to town since then. So,
And they sounded fantastic, and his voice was spot on still. You know, sometimes because again, they've been around since 86 was the
What's,
first album.
is that's Mo Berg, isn't it? Or no, he's
No,
from
that's
his Pursuit of Happiness. What's the
Yeah.
hell's the name of?
Yeah, I should know it. And there's
Yeah, I
brothers.
should too.
The guitar player's his brother, or no, the keyboard player's his brother. But I'll
Yeah.
look. You guys discuss amongst yourselves, and I'll figure the gentleman's name out, which I should know. It's one of these bands. Again, it's one of these bands I've listened to and enjoyed forever, and I can't even tell you the lead singer's name. It's ridiculous.
It's one of those staples that have been around for 30 years, and it's kind of omnipresent on Canadian radio. It's just there, and you hear it, and everybody knows it. So,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Alex, show
yeah.
us some Def Leppard.
Neil Osborne. There you go.
There you go. Thank you.
So it's Neil Osborne, Phil Camparelli, who was still, and then Brad Merritt, who's been with him forever. They went to high school together, I believe he said, and so they've kind of been them for a while. So
Cool.
good stuff, really good stuff.
Well, Rob, that would be a UK band. So
Oh yeah, shit. You're right. I don't even know why I said that. I was just thinking Alex's favorite bands, and you're right. They obviously are UK.
yeah.
I should
Well-
kick myself off my own stream for being so stupid.
Oh, it's okay. So I was thinking about this. I mean, I guess it was sort of like, my idea, but I was also thinking about it a little bit more like creatively because I didn't want to just show, the same artists that I show, or it was hard for me to think about like my top 5. And so I wanted to think of like some of my favorite artists and or like the genres they fit in that feel to me at least have a story of being like what I would describe as like uniquely American. And of course that's not an absolute, but just some things I thought of. And so within that, I'll show like a few artists or whatever, because I feel like they completely fall within that range. But for me, something that is uniquely American, in fact, geographically, it's essentially, called that. I'm not talking about Americana, by the way. But what I will talk about is, I guess, this genre called Southern rock, specifically focused on this sort of new, quote unquote, in the early 70s type of music that was coming out of the Southern United States. So to me, I think, and it is one of my favorite bands, and kind of where it begins is with the Allman Brothers debut. What's interesting, I'm showing 3 artists here who I think kind of are all different, but sort of consisted of something that's important. Allman Brothers are probably my favorite of the group. What I appreciate about them, obviously, is that their first two records are amazing, but it was really their third release, which was Live at Fillmore East, that really blew them up and sort of became one of the most well-respected or appreciated, critically acclaimed live albums of all time. They would have some tragedy shortly thereafter, and obviously just a few weeks ago we lost Dickie Betts. But, to me, though, it's when you hear certain aspects of the Southern rock influence of the Allman Brothers, the base of a lot of it is jazz, right? If you think of it like In Memory of Elizabeth Reed, and that's a very, their approach to jam banding Southern rock stuff was a little bit more kind of in the background of jazz. You compare that to, a group that everybody knows and some people hate, and I don't really care. I think this is still a fantastic album in so many ways, with the debut from Skynyrd. They were less jazzy, but certainly sort of, several years later, I think this was 72 or 73, that their debut came out. War for Allman Brothers, it was 69 that their debut came out. But this was the band that sort of defined really that sort of sound, for better and worse, right? It's the Sweet Home Alabama, it's the Good Old Boys, it's the Confederate flag waving, all the things that we love about America. It's the that's a joke, but
Clarify
I
that.
still love this record a lot. I mean, I do love like those like 5 that they did before the plane crash and all those different things, but I think in terms of like the sound, they really sort of epitomize that sound. And then last, it's a little bit different because it depends. It depends who you ask. Is Texas the South? Or is just Texas its own damn thing? And if you ask people from Texas, they're going to be like, it's our own thing. I mean, but again, different sounding. I don't think ZZ Top sounds like the Allman Brothers or Lynyrd Skynyrd, but they, again, have this different sound, this just dirty, bluesy, Southern fried kind of aspect to it. Their sound. I mean, this was also a band that went through some changes. This is their first record. I love their first 3 records the most. At this point in my life, I can barely stand the 80s stuff, the shit that took them like over the edge and made them gazillionaires, like Eliminator. I mean, it literally sold like 20 million copies. I have a hard time with Legs and like all that shit. I just struggle with it. But all this type of all this early stuff that was just so gritty and just sweaty and nasty and gnarly, I just love. So 3 of my, I guess, sort of favorite bands that would fall into that. But to me, those are 3 bands that are so uniquely American in their sound that they contributed to. So yeah, that's sort of the first round there, I guess.
Well done, sir.
Awesome.
Yep.
As Richard is saying here, all 3 are pretty much godfathers of the Southern rock genre. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good comment you put together.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Of course, I'm going to show the obvious one, but I'm not going to show that right now. So
Taylor Swift isn't Canadian, Rob.
But we'll take her.
I had to have my one zinger. I had to get it out of my system.
All right.
Okay. All right.
So I mean, this was nearly an impossible thing for me, because when Alex said, let's do this, I'm like, hell yeah, because any excuse for me to talk about Canadian music, even though, virtually no one but me cares, but that's fine.
I care.
And I go, Joe cares. How do I narrow it down to 10? I mean, I built my channel on focusing on a lot of Canadian music, and I love it. So it's hard. So I thought to myself, what do I love the most? And then there's a bunch, and I thought, all right, well, I'm going to start with the one that I saw first, and is kind of, I think, the first band to kind of really be successful outside of Canada, and that's the Guess Who. I mean, Rush at the same time. I shockingly don't have any Rush. Like them, I wouldn't say I'm a fan that needs to go out and buy Rush records. When I hear a Rush song, I'm like, yeah, that's fucking great. But it's not something I'm like, I want to put on a Rush record. But this is the first, of the big Canadian bands I ever saw, the Guess Who, from Winnipeg, Manitoba. Randy Bachman and Burton Cummings, primarily. Bachman would go on to found Bachman Turner Overdrive. But yeah, these guys in the late 60s, or maybe early 70s when they started, had a string of hits that were even hits in the States. American Woman is the one that everybody knows, but their first hit was a song called Laughing, or no, it was These Eyes, and there was Laughing and Undone and No Sugar Tonight, New Mother Nature. They had a whole string of hits. It's on the radio all the time. Just a good rock band that has always been very proud of their roots, being from Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is literally the only place more remote than Winnipeg, Manitoba is where Joe lives in Saskatchewan. So a couple of proud Canadians. The version of the Guess Who that is touring these days is an absolute sham, and I applaud Burton Cummings for suing the pants off them because they are frauds. But back in the day, these guys were just absolutely fantastic. I've had the privilege to see them when they actually did an original lineup reunion tour back in the late 90s, and it was awesome. And I've seen Bachman since then, and I've seen Cummings since then. I've met Bachman. Sorry, I met Cummings, not Bachman. But yeah, just a great 70s rock band. It was kind of one of the first to be successful outside of Canada, which is not an easy thing to do. So,
Yeah.
All right, we got a few comments here. Maybe got one comment. Richard, funny but true. I grew up just south of Winnipeg in North Dakota and had no clue the Guess Who were Canadian until maybe 10 years ago. Oh, that's cool. Right on. I'm still in search of their first two albums, and Joe will probably. There's Wheatfield Soul.
Yeah.
And what's the one that was after that?
I can't remember for sure. I mean, American Woman was the single, but also the name of the album. But yeah,
I have that.
Say, Wheatfield Soul. That's one to get for sure. Now, American Woman has a lot of really good stuff on it. But yeah, Wheatfield Soul is also very, very good. So
I have American Woman. I've never, believe it or not, never seen Wheatfield Soul out in the wild, which is bizarre.
I've seen like lousy copies. It's one you would think in Canada would be everywhere, but it's not. Not a good copy. I've seen lousy copies of it, but it's hard to come by. I think mine's okay. Mine might even just be placeholder status, possibly. So, but a really, really good album.
Yeah. Is it Canned Wheat? Is that the second one?
Canned Wheat. Thank you.
There you go. Yeah.
It's got like a soup can, and then there's wheat growing out the side of it. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yep.
A little quick Google search. There you go.
There you go.
Now they were big here, at least in Florida. My dad had the Guess Who. I didn't know they were Canadian. I didn't pay attention to any of that. I just, if I liked music, I was like, kind of like you mentioned, Joe. I'm maybe the lead singer, but that was it. I just listened to the music. I wasn't paying attention to the label. I was reading the lyrics. But yeah, the Guess Who, the songs that you were mentioning, yeah, I know all those songs. Yeah, my dad had like the greatest hits kind of thing. So yeah.
Yep. Just a good solid rock band.
Yeah, it's probably something I need to do a deeper dive into.
I guess that would fall under the category of album-oriented rock, which everyone shits on, but I don't see anything wrong with it. So
I saw Randy open for the current iteration of Skinnerd, but not recently. That was like 3 years ago, and that was a good show. And Tal Bachman, his son, right, the one hit wonder that is Tal Bachman. They played that as well.
She's so high.
It was good. And then saw Burton like 4 or 5 years ago. Sounds really good still. He's kind of a grumpy old guy, but still sounds fantastic. Last time I saw him, anyway. So
right on.
Just good stuff.
Right on. All right, round 2.
Right. John. Got to bring up the genius. So here's my R&B. Vubum. I don't think he gets enough love. I never hear him talked about in the vinyl community. And this guy was like, there was just nothing like him. I was just watching some videos on him today and just, watching him walk over to the piano, feel around, get the microphone adjusted, sit down. And it's amazing how much he could kind of do, even though he couldn't see. And you think about those piano riffs and things like that, and it just was natural. He knew where the keys were. There's no looking down. So, yeah. So Ray Charles. So I call him an honorary Floridian because he was born in Georgia, but he moved here. He was moved here as an infant into Florida, like way at the top of the panhandle up there. Not even the panhandle, but right at the top of Florida, right on that line. So, and he actually went to, every time I go to St. Augustine, there's the school for the blind, and he actually attended that school at one point. So I call him an honorary Floridian just because I, want to attach myself to him. But yeah, just anything you hear from him, especially those Atlantic years, the songs he put out. I Got a Woman, and he got a little bit of pushback because of having taking a gospel song and kind of changing the words and doing that. But but Georgia on My Mind, what I'd say, Mess Around, and then I think the best version of Leon Russell's A Song for You was covered by him somewhere in like the mid to late 80s. I mean, he killed it. I mean, it was just a amazing version of that song. And it's weird when I see him because his last project, I think, was when he was doing all the duets. I think that was the last thing. And I mean, the dude looked like he was probably in his 80s. Like, he looked and I know he was sick, and that's part of it. He was only 73 years old. Like my dad's 2 years older than that. So it's very weird for me to go, God, he was only 73. And a lot of these artists I'm going to bring up, they passed away like in their 70s. And that, as you get older, you realize 70 is not that bad. It's not that far out there.
No, it's only 12 years away. So.
So yeah, it's very strange to me, but I was kind of reading up on his history, because he was born with sight, but around 4 or 5, he started losing his sight. And I think maybe it was glaucoma. And then by the age of 7, the sight was completely gone. But you just imagine like how hard it is to break through into the music industry. And this dude did it blind, like literally. And I don't know if somebody was with him, but he rode across the country in a bus and went somewhere else to become, who he was and get established. And of course, I think his early years, he ended up kind of hooking up with Quincy Jones, and they were kind of friends in the beginning. And, so yeah, if there's a reason why they called him the genius. I mean, if you really I think people take it for granted. They just listen to the music and realize how soulful his voice is, the way he played piano. He crossed over to country genre when he wanted to. He did a full jazz album when he wanted to. But when you think about it, the guy did it completely without sight and ran a business, and took care of himself without sight. I mean, it was amazing. So that's my guy, Ray Charles. Boom.
Good one.
Good stuff.
Joe, what do you got for us?
I'm trying to, you and I have had discussions about Canadian bands and that before, and much like you, I like to try and promote as much as I can. And there's some I'm just going to leave off the list because I've talked about them before. Glorious Sons, Local Guys, Streetheart, Age of Electric. So some of the bands, Northern Pike, some of the bands I've talked about before. So they're all my favorites, but I wanted to kind of go a little bit and show some bands I haven't talked a lot about. So with that said, the next one up is the second band that I ever saw live. And actually it was a iteration of the Guess Who that opened for them, but it was Randy and Burton were gone already, so it doesn't really count. But it was April Wine, Miles Goodwin and company, and really good guitar-driven rock and roll, I think. Mostly 70s into the 80s a little bit, and then they kind of waned, but waned in making albums, that is. They were popular, and they played all the casinos and all of the bars and all of the everything for forever, and continued to sound pretty good throughout. Jerry Mercer on the drums, and yeah, just great stuff. So a couple here. Power Play, what's on here? Doing It Right, that's a song. Enough is Enough. If You CK, yes, I said If You CK is on there. It's a great song. Harder, Faster. Again, they were one of those bands where they actually, and I don't have either of them. They had two greatest hits out. They had a greatest hits that was a mellow greatest hits, and they had a greatest hits that was a rock greatest hits. They could kind of do the ballads really well, and then they kicked it in and kicked ass pretty good as well. But April Wine, and that is Harder, Faster. And then in the first 5 albums that I bought for myself, and again the second band that I saw live, the headliner anyway, but is Stand Back. Ooh, What a Night. That's probably one that maybe some will know that are not Canadians, but yeah, just really good. And they've been around for a while already before this one hit. I think they had 3 albums before this one, if I remember correctly. But again, they were just a staple of Canadian radio through the 70s and into the 80s. We've talked about it before. In Canada, if you had a radio station, you had to play X amount of Canadian music. And that helped some bands that were maybe mediocre. They got played because they had to play something. April Wine doesn't fall into that. They got a lot of radio play, but deserved radio play, I thought, anyway. And they were always great live. They weren't a bunch of explosions and fire and stuff, but again, just good, solid songwriting, solid guitar, rock and roll. I've always really liked April Wine. Miles Goodwin passed away a year and change ago now, so yeah, really good. They're still playing, but it's not April Wine anymore.
It's almost a tribute band at this point.
Yeah, that's a whole different topic of bands that are still using the name. And you just said the Guess Who, right? So
Yep.
There are some bands where there's at least one dude in them, and I'm not sure if that's the case even with April Wine. So, but
Yeah.
good stuff, really good stuff.
Yeah, I almost saw them live once. They played a free outdoor show at the casino in Brantford, Ontario, and I went because Trooper was the opener. And I went to see Trooper and didn't bother staying for April Wine. Me and my buddy took off and went to the strip club instead.
Yeah, Trooper didn't make the pile, but I love me some Trooper. They've always been good, and I've seen them 20 times, and I've met Ray and Brian, and yeah, they're just good. Again, just good, solid Canadian rock and roll, which really, and the bulk of it was from the 70s, and then they just played till a couple of years ago when Ray and Brian retired. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
What was their kind of period of like?
April Wines was basically the 70s and a little bit into the 80s, I think. Early 80s, 80 maybe 85. So 69 probably is when they started. But the bulk of, and again, Stand Back. This one was 74. No, a little older than that. I can't remember for sure. But yeah, they were big here, Canada, for sure through the 70s and a little bit of 80s. So
now there is a hell of a concert. April Wine, Loverboy, and Foreigner.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Hell yes.
Yeah.
Man, that is. I thought about pulling some Loverboy, but I didn't. So
yeah, me too. Good stuff. I don't know if they would rank in my. They'd rank in my top 20.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So, and I don't dislike them. And they opened for Prism Forever Ago and blew them off the stage when I saw them the very first time. But Loverboy's always been okay. I don't know. They're the Bryan Adams of the band. I think they just get played too much. Maybe I don't know.
Be careful, Joe.
Oh, down here, yeah.
Be
every
careful.
Friday at 5:00, Working for the Weekend came on.
Yeah.
On every radio station.
Yep.
What am I being careful mentioning?
Don't be dissing Bryan Adams here because there may be some of that coming up.
Except for him giving you.
I was pretty sure there wasn't going to be, but that's okay. We'll see.
There's, in fact, that's going to be the next record I show. So
I don't see a lot of his albums.
We'll talk about why in a minute.
Okay.
Trevor's thinking, would Just Between You and Me be considered one of the first power ballads? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Like I said, they had a lot of great ballads, and then they rock and rolled a lot as well. And I can't find the date on Stand Back for the life of me. You discuss amongst yourselves, and I'll pull this album completely apart and see what it says.
Alex is going to share something insightful with us, so
let's do it.
Sure. Well, this is one of my favorite American bands, although there's sort of a story with what it would become in just a few years. And this also falls into a little bit of, I think, just sort of musically what was going on at the time. So, in the late 60s, early 70s, specifically in the UK, you had a lot of these huge bands that were sort of forming this, hard rock. People were throwing around the term metal, all this kind of stuff, right? You're talking Zeppelin and Sabbath and Deep Purple and Uriah Heep and, a handful of these other sort of bands. In the U.S., you had some of those bands that were popping up, but they were very, what I would call like, not one-off type of things, but it was like, Blue Cheer did not have like this long, successful career like Led Zeppelin or even Uriah Heep did, right? And so, or a handful of these other, or Sir Lord Baltimore. It was like they put out these like 1 or 2 albums that blew people away, but then their career was sort of not going anywhere. But to me, this was an artist who they started as a band and sort of represented this early 70s, really heavy hard rock that was going on in the United States, sort of in a sense, maybe bringing in a little bit of the glam that was about to come in the UK, but just dirtier and grittier and heavier. And this person is still touring in his mid-70s, and he is absolutely one of my favorite artists. But I'm talking about Alice Cooper, specifically the Alice Cooper Band. So, for those who don't know, Alice Cooper, it was the Alice Cooper Band. And so Vincent Furnier took on that persona of Alice Cooper. And then in 74, ended up leaving the Alice Cooper Band, sort of dissolved, and he just kept the name of Alice Cooper. So I always use that as a reference for this is where I don't know about you guys. I don't know, Rob, I feel like this is definitely up your alley in terms of alphabetization organization, because I do alphabetized, but if it's an individual solo artist, whatever, by last name.
Absolutely.
So if I simply viewed the name Alice Cooper, if I just viewed that as a name, it would be under C. But for me, Alice Cooper is the band. So Alice Cooper falls under A.
Right.
Yep.
Anyway,
I would agree with you.
But if you go into any number of record stores, Alice Cooper is under C all the time. So different strokes for different folks. I'm showing this record. So he released, they released 2 records on Straight Records, which was the offshoot of, Bizarre Records, which was Frank Zappa's label. So the Alice Cooper Band was discovered essentially and signed by Frank Zappa. And their first 2 records, specifically their first record, Pretty's For You, is a super psychedelic, weird, like it sounds nothing like this. Really? Easy Action, which was the next record that came out, I think in like 69, similar, very psychedelic. It started sort of infusing some other things, but at this point I think they met Bob Ezrin, who completely changed everything around. And then this to me is just a perfect early 1970s hard heavy rock friggin' record. And like, what an album cover, right? I'm going to show this, and Rob, you're not going to get in trouble here. This was and did become an uncensored. This was the uncensored cover because Alice in the middle, he is holding his thumb between his hands.
Okay.
And so this was sort of uncensored. This is like sort of nerdy, kind of collecting the cover / label variants, because you have uncensored with no I'm 18 on it. So that's the other thing too. This put them huge on the map because it had I'm 18, which became a huge hit for them.
Right.
And it's just, amazing. Some other great songs on here too. But there's just a couple label variations and censored versus uncensored. And that's the shit that I'm into when it comes to like the nerdier side of collecting. But for me, again, super heavy, super just dirty, and again, in the shock rock and the stuff that they were doing on stage, and just look at those cats. It's just crazy. But for me, one of my favorite songs of all time, kid you not, it's probably top 10, maybe top 15, probably top 10 favorite songs of all time. Shout out to you, Trevor, because I know you'll know this one, is The Ballad of Dwight Fry, which is on the second side of this record. Not a single, not a hit. However, it's been a live staple since the beginning. It is the time that in the show, I've seen Alice now about 4 or 5 times. It is the time in the show where the guillotine comes out, where, he's in the straitjacket. It is complete amazing drama in all the best ways. and just a song about a guy kind of getting out of an insane asylum and then killing somebody. So it's just amazing and such an amazing song. So yeah, if you don't know the Ballad of Dwight Fry, you need to know the Ballad of Dwight Fry. But I'm going with the Alice Cooper Band as one of my favorite American groups, I guess.
What album is that?
Sorry, this is Love It to Death is the name of the record.
I gotta check that out. He needed problem with Alice Cooper. He needed a longer thumb because that's not doing him any credit.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
to each their own, John.
Okay, all right. We all deal with shortcomings.
And I've seen him, I don't know, 12 times, and I'd go and see him again tomorrow.
I've
Just
never seen it.
fantastic.
I'd love to see
And
it. Yeah.
always great band as well. And I mean, he's always had great guitar players who have gone on to do other things, and just fantastic. And I have nothing but high esteem for Mr. Fournier.
Yep.
Is he the current guitar player is a female guitar player, right?
Nita Strauss, yeah.
Nita,
I
yeah.
saw a clip on that, and she just nice. Yeah, cool.
All right. Let's get this out of the way because, there's going to be people that shit on it. But Bryan Adams.
I like Bryan Adams.
I know Alex is going to weigh on this because I think he agrees with me on this. I don't understand why everyone shits on Bryan Adams. Is it, complicated, sophisticated music? No. But it's decent, straight up rock and roll. It's album-oriented rock, which you're not allowed to like because the VC is pretentious and it's not cool. I don't give a fuck. I like what I like.
Yeah.
I just don't get why, I've never seen a single video in the vinyl community with anyone show a Bryan Adams record ever. The only person I've ever heard talk about it is Alex when he saw them on a bill with Def Leppard. I like his music. I don't think of him in terms of he's not. A lot of these bands that I like are sort of, they are Canadian bands, much like Alex talked about how those Southern rock bands are uniquely Southern American. A lot of the bands I like are uniquely Canadian for one reason or another. Bryan's not. I mean, he could be from anywhere. He happens to be from Kingston, Ontario, owns a studio in Vancouver and lives in London, England. He doesn't make Canadian music, and that's okay. I like his music. You don't see a lot of his records. This is ridiculously hard to find and crazy expensive. 18 Till I Die.
Yeah, what year did that come out, Rob?
This came out in 96.
That's OG?
So, yeah, there is only one pressing of it.
Yeah.
It's stupidly rare. I've had it for almost 20 years. So, but yeah, I don't get the hate. I can understand, people like it's overplayed. Sure, some of his songs are overplayed, and does he have some? He's got some songs that I find a little bit intolerable because they're kind of so sappy, like that one that he did for the Robin Hood movie. And there's a few of those I'm just like, but as a whole,
everything I do it for you, Rob.
Wow, there you go.
That's a good song. I like that. I don't know.
So I mean, those early records, Cuts Like a Knife and Reckless, and those are the ones that you see often, and they're fantastic records. I mean, Summer of '69, what a goddamn great song. If you can't tap your foot to that, fuck, I don't.
What did he do with Tina Turner? I mean, that song with
It's Only Love. Great song.
That's right.
That's a great song. Yeah.
Great song. So I've seen Bryan twice. He was the second concert I ever went to, not too long after I saw the Guess Who. I saw him on the Best of Me tour in 2000 when they were a trio. It was him and Keith Scott, his guitar player, and Mickey Curry, his drummer. And they were okay. Didn't work that great as a three-piece. And then I saw him on the Reckless 30th anniversary tour, I don't know, 10 years ago or whatever. And that was phenomenal. Put on a hell of a show. And he still puts on a great rock show, and he's been touring since the early 80s. So he's been at it for 40 years and still puts on a good 2.5 hour show.
Yeah.
I own all his albums. I have everything that he's put out on vinyl, which is not his entire discography, but I have everything, and I listen to him a lot.
Yeah.
I finally, Rob, picked up a copy of Reckless.
Nice.
Well, it's funny. I was going to say, like, I don't really see it. Also, full transparency, I don't exactly go to the Adams section typically when I walk into a store. So it probably has been there, but it was a nice $2 holler. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna pick it up. And damn, what a great fucking record, man!
Yeah.
Like, okay, fine. There's those albums where there's a couple of songs you just don't need to hear again, but that doesn't mean that they're any great. But to me, it's like I don't even call them like the deeper cuts. Like it kicks off with One Night Love Affair, man. What a banger that is.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I was a little disparaging earlier, but it's the overplay. That's what it was. Like I don't ever have to hear Summer of '69 again. That doesn't mean it's not a good song and that I don't appreciate it. I just don't ever need to hear that. But like, you go back and Only Hiding from Love is great. And I don't listen to the radio often, but when I do, I don't play a doctor. Anyway, it's always Summer of '69. Bryan Adams has so much music. And again, it's the radio stations that just play the same song all the time. And there's so much other good stuff to play. So I've seen him live 3 times. Most recently, I don't know, 8 years ago or so. Did 3 hours. Was fantastic. Was really, really good. And is just a phenomenal musician. He could be a little bit more of a patriotic Canadian. I think he buggered off a number of years.
Yeah, that bothers me a little bit.
But yeah, so when I disparaged him by calling Loverboy the Bryan Adams, it's just again because all they ever play is Working for the Weekend, and all they ever play on the radio is the Summer of '69. That doesn't mean that the rest of their music isn't good, and I don't appreciate it. I'm just tired of those. I mean, I'm tired of a couple of Neil Young songs as well. That doesn't mean I'm not a Neil Young fan, I guess. So,
trivia fact for you: the song "Summer of '69" is not, contrary to popular opinion, about the summer of 1969. It is about the summer of '69, and Brian has even said that in an interview.
Yep.
And by '69, we're not talking about a year here, folks.
And if you want to talk about bands that take a lot of shit, I watched the Nickelback documentary last night, and I enjoyed it. And you and I have discussed Nickelback before, Rob. You and I have, anyway. Mm-hmm. And you have some disdain for them.
I do.
Again, I like them. I've seen them live. They put on a great show. They do a good job. They've always had great bands open for them. Yeah, it's catchy and whatever you want to, the right word that I can't spit out of my mouth. But AC/DC's in my top 3 bands of ever, and they are the same very much from song to song. So anyway, didn't mean to get to Nickelback, but just another band that takes a lot of grief that maybe shouldn't, but they do.
I call them Beaver because that's what's on the back of a nickel.
There you go.
Ian Nickel.
Here all night, folks. And it's not the front, it's the back because the Queen's on the front. Just saying.
Soon to be the king.
Soon to be the king, yeah.
Are we changing the quarters? I don't know if we're changing the quarters.
Well, they're eventually going to change everything, but I think they're going to start minting the new quarter this year. So
yeah, something like that.
Which will be all right. I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Let's see. Reckless is a stellar album. I agree. YouTubers are afraid to talk. Their channel might be taken down. Yeah, well, it's I just there's bands that there's a bit of snobbery in the VC. Let's be honest. And it's not cool to like certain things, and you're not supposed to like Bryan Adams because it's not cool. And I don't give a shit what the popular opinion is. I like it, and again, it's not because it's just straight up radio friendly rock and roll. There's nothing sophisticated about it, but I enjoy listening to it. And really, isn't that all that matters at the end of the day?
Yeah. And he's written a lot of music as well.
Tons for other people.
Songs for other bands. And he started in Sweeney Todd when he was 15, I think.
He took over for Nick Gilder when Nick Gilder went solo.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. Do you remember the name of the album that he did with Sweeney Todd?
It's got a unicorn on it.
It
That's
does.
about
It's called If Wishes Were Horses, and it's the only piece of vinyl that Brian's on that I don't own.
There you go. I'll have to get you one.
If one ever comes into your shop, Joe, let me know.
I will. I'll keep that in mind.
Richard says Sirius XM has a Canadian channel, Iceberg, that sadly plays mostly bigger hits of the same. Yeah, that's true. The same 10 or 15 artists. And that's unfortunate because the music industry up here is so rich and so deep. And you're right. It's always one of the reasons I don't listen to the radio. So,
yeah.
I was talking about the live clips that got the channel shut down. So yeah, you're right, Trevor. Thank you for reminding me. I have had one and only one copyright strike, and it's from that motherfucker Brian Adams. Can I go off on a little rant here? Of course I can, because this is my stream.
Exactly.
So I took the advice of somebody, Music Talk with John, and who said you can play 5 seconds of a song. So I was playing 5-second clips of a song, and I did 5 seconds of a Brian Adams clip, and I didn't get a copyright warning. I didn't get a takedown notice. I immediately, in the middle of the night, got a strike, and the video was taken down before I could even before I would have voluntarily taken it down. But that's how much of an asshole.
Yeah.
I don't like him as a person. I like his music. That's how much of an asshole he is. I know a friend of mine lost his channel because he was at a Brian Adams concert, had taken a few videos on his phone of clips of songs, posted them, and in the middle of the night got all 3 strikes while he was sleeping and lost his channel and couldn't even appeal it because YouTube is the policy. And that's the asshole that Brian Adams is.
Yeah.
So, question for you.
Oh, go ahead.
Is Brian Adams and that song that you were trying to play, are those not options on like the music that you can select when making a short?
They were, but it wasn't in a short in the conventional sense. So it wasn't. I'm sure that there are the clips, but I wasn't using it in a short.
Gotcha.
So because it wasn't in a short, that's where I got kind of screwed. But still,
it was a video, like a public video.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Give people a warning. Don't give them a strike
it right away, because like anytime I put those clips, those 6-second clips, and I've been doing it forever. It tells you if something gets caught, then I go back, I edit my video, and I try it again.
But that depends on the copyright holder. So there are some copyright holders. Don Henley's another one that has issued immediate takedown notices. Like you don't get a warning; it's down, and you have a strike.
Yeah, because you watch like the Billy Joel concert review that I did. I mean, I played an entire song, the new hit he put out, new song he put out, and nothing. I think I got a claim. Said, yeah, we know you're using it, but we're cool, whatever. But yeah, I was so surprised when that happened to you because I do it all the time. I'm like, what the hell? But now I know not to do Brian Adams. I mean, I'll never.
It is absolutely fair to criticize Brian Adams. We can criticize anybody we like. We can also compliment anyone we like. I like his music. I just don't like his business practices.
Now, it could have been a corporate thing. It could have been, I don't know.
Yeah, but he, as the artist, is the one that instructs whoever his copyright management people is. Or maybe it's whoever
knows. I don't know.
Acts on his behalf, but
yeah,
ultimately he's the one responsible for the copyright action.
Right.
So.
Now, like Don Henley, we know he has a team of people searching all.
He's got 65 people whose full-time job it is to scour YouTube and look for copyright offenders.
YouTube and TikTok and whatever.
Yeah. That's disgusting.
It's free advertising. I don't get it. It's free advertising. You don't have somebody going up there, this song sucks. You got somebody going, oh, have you ever heard this? And
right?
It's free. But they're such control freaks. I think that's what it comes down to. It's like, I will tell you how my music will be viewed, and that's it.
Yep.
Don Henley's the same guy that doesn't want you to stand up at his concerts either. So whatever.
He doesn't want to hear you him sing anymore either. So
yeah.
He had the spear though, which would be kind of cool. But
he's the wanker of all wankers. So
yeah.
All right, Joe, what do you got?
No, I think it's John.
John.
It?
Sorry, John. Oh fuck. I got off on my rant. My train got derailed.
Yeah. Getting all excited about Brian Adams.
Hold on. Let me make it big here. There you go.
There we go. So we're gonna bring a lady into it. I was back and forth between her and Aretha. I was like, but when it comes down to it, it's Etta James for me. American artist, born in Los Angeles, California. She's part of, I think, the beginning days of Chess Records. So she kind of ran with like Muddy Waters and certain people like that, Willie Dixon. All it's kind of a weird combo with her, and I never knew really how to define her. She had this soulful voice, but when they brought her over to what was that record label? I wrote it down because I knew I was going to forget. Chess. When she brought over to Chess, she was viewed more as they were going to use her as a vocalist for standards, and then maybe a possible into the pop kind of genre. But when you listen to her sing, I mean, she's soulful, she's R&B. There's a kind of like a funk album she put out in the 70s. But yeah, she just had this voice, and I was kind of going back and forth, like, why do I like her over Aretha? And I just think there was a little more grit to her, like a little more street to her, like in your face. Like if you ever hear her interviewed, she wasn't nasty like Big Mama Thornton kind of thing, but she was. She told it as it is, and it came through in that music, whether it was a ballad or whatever. She kind of represented that. So, but yeah, born in Los Angeles, big songs for her. She actually did well. At Last, everybody plays that at every freaking wedding.
Yep.
And that's really what got my attention. Was like, oh, who is this? But the track off of this, Tell Mama, is a really good song. And then on here, 2.5 minutes of just an amazing song is I'd Rather Go Blind. Just a heartbreaking song. And I got to give credit. I'm not a big Beyonce fan, but she did a version of it and really did a good job with it. But yeah, I got to give some props to Miss Etta James here. So there you go.
Very good. How you doing, Dan? Good of you to join us. Welcome. You know who's missing tonight? Vaginal's not here.
Vaginal. And I don't know where Cardboard was here originally, right?
He was, and then maybe we bored him to death.
Yeah. I think we're doing pretty good. We're hitting a lot of shit tonight. I like it.
We are. Now it's your turn, Joe.
Now it's my turn.
Yeah.
It was Canada's 157th birthday, and it was Pamela Anderson's 57th birthday.
Who cares?
On the 1st. So Canada and a Canadian icon.
I cared 20 years ago.
I didn't care then.
Oof.
Woof.
I didn't know she was Canadian.
You can have her. We don't want her.
BC. British Columbia. She was discovered at a British Columbia Lions football game.
They'll trade her for
Her and some dude were at the game, and she was like on the kiss cam or one of those deals. And
tell you what, if you take her, we'll throw in Justin Bieber for free.
But do we get Neil Young?
No.
Neil Young had to cancel all the tour, right?
Yeah, I wonder what's up with him. Hopefully,
yeah, not sure. Didn't say other than had to cancel. He was supposed to play. I know he was supposed to play. I think with Crazy Horse Blues Fest in Ottawa, and canceled. So hopefully he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Proof that not everything I listen to is from the 70s or the 80s. These guys were a little bit in the 90s, and there is a lot of great Canadian new stuff out there. Again, I didn't bring it up, but Glorious Sons, Beaches, Pop's a great band out of Toronto. There's a lot of good stuff going on. And with that said, these guys are current, but have been around for a little while, and that is Billy Talent. Billy Talent is one of those bands, I think, that much like Rush, where sometimes the voice is the voice of the lead singer is off-putting to people, like it can be with Geddy Lee. And I'm not sure if you're agreeing or you're just agreeing.
I like Geddy Lee's voice. I can't stand the lead singer of Billy Talent.
And I get that, because I think that's the thing. And I mean, a lot of people say that about Geddy Lee as well. And it is what it is. I guess I don't know if I grew up with it and I never really noticed it, but good stuff. Punky, post-punk, power pop, whatever you want to call it, but just good. Big band for my son as well, so that always helps when you can kind of relate a little bit to your kids and some of the music that they're listening to. But again, they've got new albums out as well. This is current. That was Billy Talent 1 from a long time ago. Billy Talent 3 as well. They've always been pretty solid. They've always put out decent music. Again, put on a great show. Same lineup for a long period of time. Again, I just like them. They're great live, which for me is something that matters. And they write some good songs, and it's not all positive music or happy music, but it's always pretty good. And they got some good guitar players in the band, so that always helps a little bit as well. But I understand and get the fact that people are off-put by his voice a little bit. I 100% get that. I'm not, but I get that. So.
Yep. Alex, what do you got?
Well, I'll show. This is going to be kind of a combination of the last two, where I'll show one of my favorite American bands and then sort of where they fall in this world, maybe, of, I think, a genre that is, again, uniquely sort of American and jumps off a little bit of what Rob was talking about earlier. But, one of my favorite American bands, it's no mystery to people who know me that I'm a huge progressive rock fan. And, I think that, or not even I think, I mean, it's been pretty much proven gazillion times over that, prog is a very UK centric thing. I mean, all the biggest prog bands in the entire world are from the UK or from Europe, generally speaking. And United States had a very different sort of interpretation of it. We were about, 3 or 4 years behind everything that was going on. It's like they were putting out some brilliant stuff in 1971. And then 4 years later, when that was old, then an American band would be like, well, here we go again. So U.S. progressive rock bands were very, very different. There wasn't a lot going on in the late 60s or early 70s. They were all sort of happening in the mid to even later 70s when prog wasn't a thing. People were going towards other aspects of music. And this is where we shock some people. And shock some people, I mean those who don't pay attention. But to me, the best American progressive rock band of all time is Kansas. What's funny, and I'll get to this in a second, for those who don't know, and also Kansas was an overwhelmingly American, truly successful band. People outside of the States generally have zero idea about Kansas outside of maybe a couple of huge hits they had that truthfully is not really indicative of their sound at all. And so, they are hugely, hugely, hugely progressive rock. Yeah, they don't sound like, Yes or whatever, but super proggy. This is their debut, very proggy artwork in so many ways. But what's kind of funny is that they, of course, would become more known because of huge hits that would come out, that would find themselves on the radio every freaking day in the mid to late 70s with an album like this. I love this. This is one of the earliest records I bought with this Jets sticker. Stupid, not a Jets fan, whatever. But this record, Leftover Tour, that came out in 76, starts with Carry On Wayward Son, which was a huge, huge hit, still is played all the time. Great song, doesn't really sound like anything else they've ever done. But the whole, rest of this record is just prog masterpieces. I mean, you have a number of these songs that are extended, long, have different parts to them. They're suites. They have part 1 and part 4, like all these different things that are going on. But what's so funny is then now it's like a band like this, because they have this huge hit, they're sort of viewed again in this like mid to late 70s album oriented rock sort of thing, which then
you're not allowed to like album oriented rock,
right? Which then is interesting because, okay, well, what other bands? I guess I would put it this way. I mean, at least again in these things that not necessarily uniquely American, but these are definitely American bands that blew up in this way of like incredible, arguably virtuosic musicians that maybe had a background in more complex music, but they sort of came at this time and some of their songs were played so heavily on the radio that they almost became like novelty type acts, right? The other band I talk about a lot that I truly believe is an American progressive rock band is Styx. They, of course, would fall in with this record that's ridiculous. I mean, this is such a perfect record. This is Grand Illusion. It's like side A is like all the huge hits that everybody knows, and then side B is all like the progressive deep cuts that you're like, wait, this is Styx? This is crazy. And so they also fall into this in that 77 type way. And the last artist I'll show, because again, they have sort of become a band that people have laughed at. And I'm like, do y'all know like the story of this band? Do you know the incredible musicians who are in this band? Like, it's wild, but again, something that I think has become sort of uniquely American in this way of let's take their 2 or 3 gigantic hits that we've heard a gazillion times and now we're hearing in every TikTok ever, and we're going to completely forget about how amazing these records are and how amazing this band is. And that's Toto. You know, it's like Steve Lukather. I mean, someone could tell me that he's a top 10 greatest guitar player of all time, and I would totally believe him. I mean, these are studio session musicians who are professional players that play on every record by everybody, whether it's Jeff Porcaro, whether it's Steve Lukather playing on, on Beat It or on Michael Jackson records, or, all these different things that are going on. And like, again, people hear Africa and it's like, oh, haha, it's Toto, it's Africa. And it's like, no, man,
That's a great song.
This is, and it's still a great song, right? And I'm like, but they've become like that band where it's like, it's somehow, I get it. Like, I don't really get it. I disagree with it, I guess, of like, it became uncool to just be good. It was like, well, I don't like how good their vocals are, and you're like, what? Like, how would that litmus test be prescribed to any other aspect of art ever? It's like, well, I just don't, it's just recorded too perfect or whatever. And it's like, you mean they're good musicians who know what they're doing? That's what I'm hearing, right? And so it's like, yeah, I mean, there's so many of these different bands. I mean, I would throw Journey in this category here. I would throw, mention Foreigner in this category here. I would throw the Babies in this category. I mean, there are so many of those.
You should never throw Babies.
I will toss them anywhere. But I just, all these I think are great American bands and are sort of part of that American sound. But who they are is so much more than just like the 2 or 3 radio hits that people are tired of hearing.
That's a common thread, I think.
Styx now led by a Canadian, right?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Ironically, Styx now led by a Canadian. Well, co-led.
I mean, an icon with Lawrence, yeah.
Lawrence, man, he fit in so good with that. That was just a no-brainer. He just is fantastic.
Music Sanctuary wants one of those CN ball caps, Joe.
I'll see what I can do. I have no affiliation with the Canadian National Railway. I was driving a battery-operated train at a Christmas carnival, and somebody gave me the hat to wear. That's as close as I can come to it. So I'll see what I can do.
Well, let me see what I can do, because my best friend of 38 years is a vice president of something at CN. So,
well, you probably have a better shot. Other than me giving you this one, you probably have a better shot then.
Oh, you should sign that and just mail it to him.
There you go. Yeah.
Alex, do you know the artist Boulevards? He has a new album called Carolina Funk.
I do not. No.
There you go.
Write it down.
Is the Kansas record a UK or is that Scotch tape on it?
Oh, it is fully taped. It is not UK. It's fully taped up because the whole scene was completely falling off.
Douglas Gilbert, I saw that tour backing up Hawkwind first time I saw Kansas. The Toto album is a classic? Yes, it is. So sad that those bands get short shrift for the fact that their hits were way too overplayed. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, we mentioned that about Bryan Adams too. It was summer of '69, and you don't look any deeper than that. It's unfortunate. There's a lot of acts that fall victim to their own success, I guess. Lawrence Gowan has a remarkable voice. He was a great choice for Styx. He's no DeYoung, but he can hold his own. Yeah, and it's good that through him the music gets to continue to be played live. So that's off.
And on the keyboards, and actually they play one of his songs, and it's like it's a Styx song. Just fits in.
Cool.
Dan, I have absolutely no idea. All right, my turn. I'm going to do a twofer here because I have way too many records to show before we're through tonight. But these two artists are related, sort of. Not biologically, but musicologically, if that's even a word.
It is now.
It is now. Copyright Northern Revolutions, musicologically. All right. I mean, some of these are not a surprise to talk about them all the time, but if we're talking favorites, I can't not talk about them. Matt Mays, rocker from Eastern Canada. Technically, actually, he's from Hamilton, Ontario, but raised in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Has been making great rock records since his first album. This is 2005, and this is his second album. So 2003-ish was when his self-titled came out. And that is just honest, straight up rock and roll. I've heard folks kind of compare him to Tom Petty. I don't necessarily hear that because Tom's a little more folky than Matt Mays is. But I don't really know what to say he's equivalent to, but I have seen Matt more times than I can count. And I wear earplugs at a concert because I have tinnitus. And I stand at the back of the room at a Matt Mays concert, and I still come out of there with my ears hurting. Holy shit, is he loud. But unbelievably good. This came out in 2005, and this kind of had his breakthrough hit on Canadian radio, which was a song called Cocaine Cowgirl, which a lot of people don't necessarily know the name of, but when they hear it, they go, I remember that song. Just an awesome dude. I've met him several times. Is just a genuine guy. He's been sober for the last 2 years, which is good because he was kind of a heavy partier kind of guy, life on the road sort of deal. But now he's settled down and owns a farm about 40 minutes from me and hosts concerts in his barn that you can go to. They're not doing it this year because his partner just had brain cancer that was successfully removed. But when everything was good, they would have barn concerts. And when they start them up again, I'm absolutely going to go because this guy is just, I've said, I think he's making the best rock and roll in Canada. He's got about 8 or 9 albums, and they're all really good except for the last one, which was called Dog City, and it is garbage. He recorded it during the pandemic when we were all in lockdown, and he was kind of going shack wacky. It is experimental as his music goes, and it's not very good. Everything else that he makes is just, he plays a Gretsch White Falcon, and he plays it loud, and it's awesome. So you can't go wrong with any Matt Mays album. And related to that is the guy that I have said is Canada's undiscovered national treasure, Adam Baldwin. Adam Baldwin is Matt Mays' guitar player and also struck out on his own to make solo music. And Adam's got, I think, 3 or 4 albums out now. This is his first full-length album from 2016 called No Telling When, precisely 1985. It is also a straight-up rock record. Adam idolizes Bruce Springsteen, and in the first couple albums, it's very Springsteen, Born to Run kind of rock and roll. And Adam is amazing. And then he just put out a folk record, which I think should have been nominated for a Juno because it was that bloody incredible. I showed it in the video that I posted last week, actually. But these two guys together make incredible music. I've met them both countless times, seen them both countless times, and absolutely 2 of my favorite Canadian musicians. So if you just want honest guitar rock and roll that is current, Matt Mays and Adam Baldwin. So there you go. And I know no one's heard of him. Joe's probably heard of him. Joe's heard of Matt Mays at least.
Yeah, Baldwin, obviously, just because you've spoke about him. But yeah, Matt Mays, I mean, I haven't listened to a lot of, which is probably I don't know why I haven't, because I like what I've heard. I just haven't followed him as closely as you have, obviously. But good stuff, really good stuff.
Yeah. Where are we here? Dan says, I want that Matt Mays album just for the cover alone. Well, Dan, so that's the front cover. This is the back cover. And it is one and the same image. It's a girl in a car. The artist that did this, I believe, is Matt's brother, I think, because his last name is Mays as well. And he also did the first album, which has a very similar kind of drawing of self-portrait or a portrait of Matt. So,
are we to assume she is the Cocaine Cowgirl?
Well, I would guess so. Yeah, I mean that's that would be my interpretation of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Alex, can I get a sealed copy, or I can get a sealed copy for $35 Canadian? No.
6.
The Mission, I
Of
think.
which one? Probably.
Oh, the Mission.
If you like Lawrence Gowan, check out his debut solo called "Strange Animal." Oh, I remember that shit. That's taking me back to my childhood. Not that I was a fan, but I remember hearing a lot of that back in the day.
It's actually his second. That's his second
Was
album.
it second?
Yeah. There were no hits off the first one. I've got the first one, but yeah, that was the blow 'em up kind of a album.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
yeah, and great. And I was listening to it a little while ago, and my son, who is 30 and change, came out of his room because he's still here and went, "Wow, this is really good. Who is this?" So there you go. It transcends 30 years ago, and it's good. It's really good.
Yep. Alex is saying, I think Alex is beer and vinyl fella. I would say it's a great deal, Dan. I don't have it sold out down here. So there you go. All right, round whatever we're on. John.
All right. And I gave it a little bit of a listen here, your Matt Mays. I would say I hear Petty in the voice, but I hear the Wallflowers in the music.
Sure, that's fair.
Right? For Cocaine Cowgirl, at least.
Yes.
So checking that out.
And bearing in mind that this was his second album and his first was a little more Petty-esque than this.
Okay.
And with each album, he got successively more rock. So if you listen to his big monster album was called Coyote from 2014, and that won Rock Album of the Year. It is much less of that sort of Petty influence and just more
rock.
More rock. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like the production of that song. I'm going to listen to that album and check it out. Definitely. So, all right. So this next guy kind of got on my radar. Believe it or not, I was like at a gas station in the old, I don't know if they still do. I don't think they do. This is in the 90s. I'm at a gas station. I go inside to get a drink, and they have cassettes. Cassettes.
What's a cassette?
Yeah.
This little thing that goes like this.
That's a silly idea.
I got a stack of them right there. So I'm in there, and I see this, and I've kind of heard the name, and I was trying to figure out the blues at one point. So I just grabbed it. You know, it's $3 or something. So I grabbed it, put it in the car, and I heard this voice that I've just never heard before. You know, this great blues music and this just voice that they're like, who the hell is this? And it ended up being Howlin' Wolf. It was a compilation. This is probably there's another album, Howlin' Wolf, and it has a wolf on the front. That's another good album by him. The Rocking Chair album is just a classic by him. But he just has that voice, and there's this personality in it. And then there's the London sessions that he does with I believe Clapton
and Winwood. I've got it.
Yeah. So I was thinking I want to introduce some blues. I want to talk about some blues, different genres. And I'm like, who is my blues guy? And just immediately my mind went to Howlin' Wolf. And it's interesting too. Yeah. So he was only 65 when he passed away. He had that illness. And I think even while he was doing the London sessions, he was already ill at that point. So it's just kind of a shame to know there could have probably been more in him, but he was just unique. You know, he played guitar, but it was always the voice. And he just did, he kind of, I got to figure out, because they said he did some psych music too. So I'm not really sure what area the psych would have fallen into, but he was definitely a blues guitarist, R&B and things like that. And I was looking up his background, and I don't know if you're familiar with Charlie Patton. He was a very what area was he? He was more like Delta blues player, but things weren't going great at Howlin' Wolf's house, so he left and ended up being mentored almost by Charlie Patton, who was another pretty well-known blues player. I don't know if he was right around the time of Robert Johnson, because he was born in like 1891, so he probably did run past with Robert Johnson. They don't talk about him that much, but yeah, so Howlin' Wolf kind of fell in with him, and they were saying he's kind of like the he was at the forefront of transforming like acoustic Delta blues into like the electric Chicago blues, that change around. So, and when I think of Howlin' Wolf, I think more of the electric guitar. So I don't know if there's earlier stuff with him playing more acoustic. I'm going to have to check that out. But, you know, he wrote Backdoor Man. He wrote Spoonful, which Cream covered, and Smokestack Lightning were three of his big songs. So, yeah. So Howlin' Wolf, got to bring the man up. The Voice, I call him.
It's a great pick. That's one of the, not that one, but the London Sessions is one of the first albums my dad ever gave me when I was a teenager. So
yeah, that London Sessions falls right in there with like John Mayall and the Blues Breakers, Blind Faith, like right in there. Yeah.
Yep. What do you got, Joe?
How many more rounds are we going?
However many we can squeeze in. I got more records than I can show here. So
Are we going to, okay. Well, I'll do it because I'm saving my favorite for last. So I'll do this, and then give me a minute if we don't get to another round later. But
we'll make sure we get our best of at the end.
Perfect. Kim Mitchell. He was in a band called Max Webster. The guy who is looking for the Max Webster albums just went off screen, but
Probably got a P.
Great Canadian guitar player. I don't know if he gets a lot of credit for his guitar playing. I think he does.
I think up here he does. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think of him
so.
first and foremost as a guitar player.
He doesn't. I mean, it's not like grand solos in his music by any means, but it's just always really, really good stuff. And again, Max Webster back to the early '70s with, all of that, A Million Vacations and some crazy stuff, and then much like a lot of guys think, hey, I'm going to go out on my own. And I don't know if it was the rest of the band decided they didn't want to anymore, because I don't remember seeing or hearing much of the other guys from Max Webster after Kim left.
No, I don't know.
But he's had a guy with him from the start, Peter Fredette as well, who, if you listen to the song All We Are, he's the other voice and should have just had his own band and should have just been his own lead singer in a band, and he just chose to stay with Kim all along. But really, really good stuff. Now, some catchy standard pop tunes as well, like Patio Lanterns. I mean, I think we've all heard that. Go for a Soda, but really, really good stuff. Again, nothing deep, just great rock and roll. And I think that Kim probably fits the Canadian genre. I would think say that he would probably be on the Canadian Mount Rushmore if there was more than four anyway. I think
so.
But his music certainly puts you in the mind of being out in the woods, drinking beer and hanging out with your friends by a fire, for sure. I think that a lot of it. This one, great album, Akimbo Logo. And lastly, but not leastly, again, this has Misdemeanor on it, which I think was also a Max Webster's tune, but this is kind of where it all started. This was his version of Crazy from the Heat when David Lee Roth decided he's going to go do some stuff, test out the waters a little bit, and then eventually go on and be his own guy. But good stuff. Great in concert. Still sounds great. Saw him a couple of years ago, and again, him and Peter, just fantastic. Great stuff. Good songwriter. Again, a lot of it is very pop, not power pop. That's not it. I don't think. Just I mean, some of it's silly, downright silly, actually, and I think he throws that in there, and I don't think he ever has a problem with playing that up as well. Like I'm a Wild Party, right? And again, there's another one. One of the lines is, I know I'm a lot of feathers and not much chicken. So just good stuff. And one of my favorites, been listening to him for a long time. Easy to Tame, such a fantastic song. And they're not long. And again, there's not a bunch of guitar solos and things like that in it, but he is a very, very good guitar player when he does kind of stretch his guitar chops a little bit. So that's mine. That's not my favorite, but he's top 3 Canadians for me, Kim Mitchell and Max Webster.
Dan's making a good question, actually. Is knowing that he's Canadian to make him sound Canadian, or does he actually sound Canadian? That's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah, we had that discussion before. I don't know
Yeah,
if you can
I don't
say.
know.
I think when Alex talked about Southern rock, when you hear Southern rock, you can specifically say some bands, and three of the bands that you showed were them.
Right.
If someone was to say, "Okay, name me some Canadian music," I don't know.
Well, I don't know that it. I don't think that. I think when someone says Canadian music, I think tragically hip, Blue Rodeo, that kind of thing. But there was a Canadian rock sound in the 80s, right?
Yeah,
There was a little different, and even into the 90s, there were guys who were kind of holdovers from the 80s, and I think of Kim Mitchell and you know Barney Benton, the legendary Hearts, and that kind of thing, and that was
Moxie.
yeah. We liked our keyboards up here too, right?
Yeah.
Streetheart had a lot of keyboards.
Yeah.
Saga had a ton of keyboards. Kim Mitchell had that aspect in there. Of course, we
Yep.
talked about Gowan. There was lots in there. Burton always played the piano. There was a lot of keyboards, and I don't know if that is something to the Canadian sound or not. But we definitely, I mean, obviously, we had Rush with keyboards.
Yeah.
Too much to some disdain when we heard more keyboards than we heard bass. But there were a lot of keyboards in a lot of Canadian bands that were always very, very good as well.
I only ever saw Kim Mitchell once, and it was at a Bryan Adams concert, and Brian brought him out for an encore along with Randy Bachman.
Yeah, nice.
And they played "Taking Care of Business," and I'm like, all right, they're going to play a Kim Mitchell song, but they didn't play a Kim Mitchell song. They played one of the most Canadian anthems of all time, and I think it was "The Wait" was the song they played. It was either "The Wait" or "It Makes No Difference," one of the two songs by the band.
Right.
But I'm like, why didn't Kim Mitchell get to play one of his songs? But nonetheless, when he took the lead, he was a fantastic guitar player. So,
And we haven't even mentioned the band. Well, we just mentioned the band.
Well,
Who are
that's-
I have them here, but I don't know if I'm going to get to them or not.
Yeah, I think of them as American. I embrace them as American. I know. I don't know. I don't hear the difference at all. Like you hear Southern rock, you hear different genres and things, but I really don't.
You're right, and there is that, but then there's also some songs in there that are distinctly Canadian. I mean, I talked in the video I posted on Sunday or Monday. I talk about like Acadian Driftwood for one example. That is a very not Southern, not Americana kind of song.
Right. But is it because of the lyric content?
That is a big part of it, but also just the composition of it does not sound Americana. It's something entirely different. So
Yeah, because like where the band fits right in with either the Grateful Dead or Bob Dylan or whatever, they fit right in. Yeah.
Yep. Agreed. Alex.
Yeah, we'll roll with another sort of things that I think are, I don't think distinctly American. I think it happened that as the genre progressed, it became a very American thing in terms of like, oh, it just happens that the biggest bands that do this particular thing happen to be American, which is interesting because it's a genre that was born out of the British invasion, like so many other types of genres, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about power pop because I love power pop. But, quick history is that a lot of people would take that back to probably British invasion, but also, the Kinks, the Who, the Beatles, obviously, all that kind of stuff. But also some of the other just, kind of rock and roll beat groups, right? Tommy James and the Shondells and like that type of stuff going on.
Sorry to interrupt, Alex. There's the man. We were worried about you. We didn't think you were going to join us tonight. Welcome, Vaginal.
He made it.
Sorry, Alex. Continue.
But again, like something that was very much a thing about those first couple of Who records, and obviously Beatles, but I would say more Beatles during like Help type era Beatles, I would say. The Kinks obviously during those times, and then arguably one of my favorite bands of all time that was coming out of the UK and sort of like defined this power pop genre was Badfinger. But after that, it seemed that most of the bands or artists that were coming out within power pop world were coming out of the States. whether, talking about bands like Big Star, bands like Blue Ash. Anytime I can show a Blue Ash record, I will. From 1973, Todd Rundgren, as a number of other bands during that time were also going. You're now going into like the late 70s. And a band, shout out Emma if you're still watching, but Cheap Trick, they kind of epitomized that sound, taking that early kind of rock and roll, Beatles, big harmonies, huge hooks, all those different things, and really sort of perfected that sound during the late 70s into the early 80s, which then of course would influence an entire other sort of realm, again, American. And then last, where I think too of like what you could probably argue is like the third wave of power pop, I guess you could call it, which came in the early 90s. I mean, talking again, mostly if not all American bands. You talk about Weezer, you talk about Matthew Sweet, you talk about I'm guessing, Emma, while you're still there, Material Issue, they're American, I think, right? Hopefully. I'd feel terrible if they weren't. But my kind of favorite, and they only put out 2 records, and it's definitely like the music nerds band that everybody loves, but I love them too. And I was talking about them well before these reissues came out, where now everybody wants to talk about them. But to me, the band that I think just perfected everything about power pop in the early 90s was Jellyfish. They only put out 2 records, this and Spilt Milk. This is, for any collector people out there, this is one of my prized possessions. This is an original 1990 or 91 promo copy. And these were not, I think they were reissued once, maybe mid to late 2000s. And then again, they were just reissued. And not only, thanks, Emma, not only all these bands from the United States, so many of them were coming from like Illinois and the greater Chicagoland area. And so, so many of those different things going on. But yeah, wanted a chance to show Jellyfish just because to me, they're just the perfect band, kind of a wild story, only put out the 2 records. Then there was a lot of these sort of offshoots, Imperial Drag and, Licorice Quartet and some other types of projects that were going on. But yeah, I mean, if you love, if you love, I guess, the Beatles, yes, but tying in some very, very small, I think more ear candy type stuff, huge harmonies, huge hooks. Again, this is perfect early 90s power pop here. Certainly not lo-fi. I mean, it's a higher fidelity sort of sound. This sounds great to me. But yeah, just perfect. If you don't know Jellyfish and you are into those early 90s sort of power pop bands, then they're an absolute must. So yeah, I guess kind of power pop as the genre, and then all those other kind of stuff. So yeah.
Apparently the Shazam, another power pop band that were buzzing in the 90s. There you go. Welcome, folks that have just joined us in the last few minutes. Emma, King of the VC, and who else? Someone else joined us. Welcome. All right, I'm going to show a couple here. Let me make myself big now. Hold on. All right, the reason I'm going to show a couple, because this ties into the point I was making when Joe was talking about how there was kind of a 80s, 90s, sort of Canadian rock thing in the vein of, Kim Mitchell and Barney Bentall. And I think probably the one that's probably the most recognizable is Tom Cochrane, or Tom Cochrane and Red Rider, or just Red Rider. It's all the same. The man's still touring today, a staple of music for a number of years in the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. This is his album from 1991 called Mad Mad World. Didn't look like this when it was released. It actually had this horribly shitty cover on it right here, but when they press it on vinyl for the anniversary, they actually put a better cover on it. But probably everybody knows the song Life is a Highway. There was some shitty country band in the States that did a cover of it. I don't know, Road Hammers or some, I don't know, not stuff I listen to. They covered the song, but Tom Cochrane wrote it. And just great Telecaster rock and roll. He is fantastic. He was with Red Rider and then went solo, and then Red Rider rejoined him. And I think he's still touring to this day with Red Rider, and just great. Early
is a highway.
90s kind of rock and roll. So it kind of ties in with that. I don't think I'm far off, Joe. It's kind of in the same vein as Kim Mitchell and Barney Bentall. And
Well, I was going to save my favorite for last, which you just
I'm
did.
sorry.
So, no, not at all. No, I don't know why I don't talk about him and these guys. Tom Cochrane is kind of Red Rider, and Red Rider is Tom Cochrane. But
Yeah.
like Back to the Beginning, Don't Fight It. But then this album, I wore out copies of this on tape and CD and
As far as Siam.
and it's so good. Cowboys in Hong Kong,
Yeah.
and this is so good. And then of course again kind of went out on his own. I don't have Ragged Ass Road, and Ragged Ass Road is one of my favorite overall albums ever. It's just so good. But and then Neruda, just really good. And he's a big Leonard Cohen fan.
Yes.
And I think that shows in his songwriting. I think one of our best. I think Tom Cochrane. I mean, obviously there's Leonard, there's Gordon Lightfoot, but I think Tom. Life is a Highway and Big League are the two big songs.
I think aside from Life is a Highway, I think the ones our American friends might know is Lunatic Fringe. I think was a decent.
Yeah,
hit in the US.
I would think Lunatic Fringe as well. Yeah, exactly.
Another one, White Hot. That was a friggin' great song.
Yeah, Avenue A.
Yeah.
Just again, kind of that ballady, good, great stuff. I've seen him 15 times. Yeah, and like you said, he's still doing it, and it's just so good. And again, one of those Canadian artists that has not necessarily, I don't think, gotten the recognition. And you're right, there's a couple songs that have kind of broke. And then the one that you were thinking of, maybe Rascal Flatts. It was in
Rascal Flatts. Thank you.
It was in Cars, right? It was the version in the Pixar movie Cars. But if you buy a Tom Cochrane or Red Rider record and listen to it and don't like it, I'll give you your money back.
Right.
I'll go. It's just good. It's just so good.
Joe and I will split it because I would say the same thing.
There you go. Yeah. And the one that you showed, and like I say, Ragged Ass Road, I have it on CD. Good. It's just really good. Now, he hasn't written anything for a while. I don't think there's been any new Tom Cochrane.
He did an album just before the pandemic, I think.
Yeah.
Was probably the last one. So.
And then he redid Big League after the Humble Broncos crash, right? He did that. But I highly recommend. I don't think you'll go wrong. I mean, if you listen to some and you like it, you will like the rest of it. And that's not to say it's the same, but you will like the rest of it, I think.
Yeah, agreed. All right, I was gonna do two, so I'm gonna keep going because I got the controls and I can.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, and you know what? I feel bad that I stole your thunder, man. Sorry about that.
No, not at all. I just wanted to make sure that I showed my love for Tom.
All right. A band no one's heard of except for me, but that's okay. I mentioned in the early 90s there was a band called Barney Bentall and the Legendary Hearts. I'm a huge fan of his son, Dustin Bentall. He's put out, 3 or 4 albums. 4 albums, I think. And his first album he put out is Dustin Bentall. His second album he put out is the Dustin Bentall Outfit, and it's called Six Shooter. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. And then he was Dustin Bentall and the Smokes, and they put out a couple albums. And then the Smokes broke up, and now he's doing something else. I don't know. I mean, I know what he's doing, but it doesn't matter for the purpose of this discussion. But just a great. It's weird. It's country mixed with stoner rock. If that makes any sense at all, it doesn't, but it's fantastic. Absolutely love this. I know Dustin, and I knew a couple of people that were in his band. When they were a band, and they've not been together now for almost 10 years, but when they were a band, every time they were within an hour of where I live, I would go see them. Just a massive fan of these. these guys, and unfortunately, no one knows who they are. But I got to mention them. So there you go.
Cool.
A few comments here. Let's see, where are we? Yeah, life's a highway. I'm going to ride it all night long. Kurt Angle used to come out to Lunatic Fringe. Cars did not use the original. Cars used the Roadhammer. Is that what you said, Joe? Roadhammer?
I think Rascal
Rascal
Flatts.
Flatts.
Why do I keep saying Road? I know shit about country music.
Now, I will say,
Pretty
and
good, actually.
John would probably be able to attest to this. I mean, I was a '90s kid. I remember hearing that song, the original,
over and over.
seemingly every day. I mean, that was one of the most played songs, I feel like, of the night. When that song came out. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That song is the reason that I have a 72 Telecaster Deluxe, because that's what he plays in that song, and I'm like, that sound is awesome because it's a double humbucker Telecaster. I'm like, I gotta have one.
It never got old. I could play it every time it came on. It was for the time. It was a little bit different. I was like, okay, it fit. Yeah. It was on the radio.
Get this album, guys.
That is a great album that has probably the worst album art of all time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
so
terrible.
they have Lunatic Fringe on it, but then again, Cowboys in Hong Kong, Through the Curtain. Yeah. If you can find this one, find it.
It's called As Far as Siam. SIAM.
That's right.
Siam.
And I don't know. I would say, Joe, back to your point when you were showing Kim Mitchell. The only Kim Mitchell song I remember hearing, and it wasn't a ton, was the I'll completely mess up the chorus bit here, as I typically do when I sing on Rob's streams, but it's like,
do it.
It's like something blah blah blah, and nobody cried. Yeah, nobody
Go for
cried.
a soda. Yeah, nobody.
What is it called?
Nobody died, and go for a soda.
Go for a soda. And then I think I remember that being played in a scene by Ricky in Trailer Park Boys at some point too, as he was probably turning up and having a good time. So yeah.
So, King of the VC. This is Dustin Benthal's album called Orion, You Are an Island. It's actually 2 LPs put together on vinyl. And The Girl in the Mermaid, this is from the video. This was Dustin's at-the-time girlfriend, Kendall Carson, who is a friend of mine still to this day. And she is the fiddle player for Alan Doyle. Exactly. So, she had a mermaid costume on in that video.
I would listen to Kendall play the fiddle whether she's in a mermaid costume or not. It doesn't matter.
You know what? I've known her for 15 years, and she is an absolute sweetheart. Red Rider stuff shows up in the cheap racks a lot. Yeah, that is sad that it shows up a lot. You can buy Red Rider albums for $2 all day long, which is a shame. Patio Lanterns was another one. Yeah, Patio Lanterns was... To me, that's when I think Kim Mitchell, unfortunately, I think of that song first, just because radio saturation.
Yeah, for sure.
We're closing in on the 2-hour mark. Do you guys want to do one more go around the horn?
Yeah, I'll blow my load here on the last.
Ooh,
give it all out to you here.
You got sleeves on this.
Grab a paper towel.
Yeah. All right. So we'll just run through them. So, well, today I was out mowing the lawn. I usually have the AirPods in. I'm blasting. I'm like, what haven't I heard in a while? I'm like, the Globe Sessions. I haven't heard the Globe Sessions. What a freaking great album. I mean, everything's in that album.
Rumor has it it's coming out on vinyl this year.
Man, I hope so. I hope we get those. I was looking at all her albums, Sheryl Crow's albums, and I'm like, man, she had a lot of, between the Globe Sessions, the Sheryl Crow album, that second one. Come On was okay. But I liked Wildflower. It kind of went kind of modern psychedelic maybe. But Detours was a good album. And that 100 Miles from Memphis was sort of an R&B album for her. So I think those are.
What do you think of the new one?
Well, I know you didn't like it, but I still like it.
It's kind of hit and miss for me.
It was, but it's better than what she's been doing.
True.
And, she's 62 years old. We're not going to get what we got out of her before, but I think there was a spark of old Cheryl in there, and that's what I liked about it.
There was, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's why I gave it a higher rating, because I'm like, oh, at least there's that little that we enjoyed.
Right.
So, so yeah, Sheryl Crow, born in Missouri, the heartland there. So of course this is the record store day release. I had to show it to you, and what's so funny, I'm like, sometimes I want to send this to you, but we're
You
so
can't.
so complained on her, and this was the album. Like but if I write up a will, this is going to go to you.
Well, I appreciate that. When I saw you on your live stream bending over and I saw you pull that out, I'm like, that some bitch is going to pull the record store day one.
I did.
You know what? I'm thankful I've got the reissue, so that's okay.
Yeah.
Like
I have a reissue and I kept it sealed. I just have it kind of sitting over there. So, Sheryl Crow, and then you can't get, I don't know, can you get more Americana than good old Bob Dylan? I mean, I don't know. Born in Minnesota, but, kind of got his roots in New York. But yeah, Bob Dylan. And we all know Bob Dylan. I don't need to go too far into it with him. But yeah, I mean, that's good American music. Of course, what is a live stream with John without Billy Joel? But I mean, come on. New York guy, wrote about New York music. So sold, I don't know how many records, but
just for you, John, I'm going to give you this. I'm going to give you the ducks.
And where are the stats? I did stats on this. Where's it at? So this album right here, let's see, is one of the best-selling albums in U.S. history. And he sold 160 million albums worldwide. So. And he's somebody that gets dissed in the U.S. In the vinyl community too. And I'm like, you guys can just fuck off. I don't care.
Yeah.
He's proven his worth. I mean, he's changed through the years. He wanted to be eclectic, and he was, and there it is. So couldn't leave him out.
I saw this great meme on the internet the other day, and I thought of you, and it said, I heard that song, The Piano Man, but the harmonica player won't shut the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, Florida, Gainesville, you got to have Tom Petty. And this is probably my favorite album by him. It's hard to pick a favorite, but I kind of always go back to this one. But yeah, Tom Petty, very Americana to me, I think.
I know Sam's not here, but I know he would probably agree with me. I just picked up the new Mike Campbell from the Heartbreakers. He's got the new Dirty Knobs album. Fantastic.
See, and I have the first two, but they're all sold out here. I'm having a hard time tracking it down.
I Amazoned it, and of all the three Dirty Knobs albums, it's my favorite.
Okay.
I really dig it.
I mean, he was the heart of Tom Petty. I mean, even when Tom Petty went just Tom Petty without the Heartbreakers, he still had to bring in Mike Campbell and Benmont. I mean, he still brought those guys in. How do you get more Americana than that? Bruce Springsteen. I know you're on your Bruce Springsteen thing. Right now I'm going through a Tom Petty, listening to everything, because when I got introduced to Tom Petty, it was right there in the 80s. So it was Full Moon Fever, Into the Great Wide Open. Then I worked my way back a little bit to Southern accents. So I kind of realized I wasn't that familiar with his. I knew the hits from the early stuff, but not the albums, and the later stuff also. So I had to kind of work my way back. But Springsteen, I'm kind of doing the same thing with him. I need to go back to Asbury Park and all those albums, work my way through. But I have almost every one of his albums on vinyl at this point. But yeah, this was the one that kind of, introduced me to Springsteen right there in the 80s. Of course, this song was huge. So,
I gotta say, I have not enjoyed a journey of musical discovery more than I have enjoyed discovering Bruce Springsteen. It's been awesome.
He just gets better and better. And, in the 80s, he kind of hiccuped a little bit with Lucky Town and all that. And he kind of hiccuped with A Letter to You. That was an okay album, but like Western Stars and even the Soul Cover album, I really think he did a good job doing that. So, yeah, Springsteen. And the last one I was going to bring up is country genre, Willie Nelson. Shotgun Willie. This one and what was the other one? I forgot the name of the other one that's right after this. This is where Willie kind of said, I'm going to start taking a little bit more control over my music. And it's just great songwriting. I mean, Shotgun Willie to Whiskey River. I mean, that's a great song. What was the other one? Oh, and he covers a song for you on this. So, That's what wrapped it up. And then I have like 13 honorable mentions. I couldn't stop. It was crazy.
It's hard to do, man.
I know. It was amazing. It's just insane. So that wraps mine up.
All right. Joe, I'm sorry I stole your thunder on your favorite, but
That's okay. That's all right. If you haven't got to The Rising yet by Bruce Springsteen, get to The
I
Rising.
have not. I'm in the 90s at this point in time.
That
Yeah.
one took me a minute. Like when it first came out, I was like, and I got it because right after 9/11 and all that, and I got it. But the album itself didn't do much for me. But I went back to it. I'm like, this is a pretty damn good album.
Yeah.
You know?
Agreed.
And the Ghost of Tom Joad. I mean,
Yeah. Even the Pete Seeger. There's a Pete Seeger covers album as well. Is
absolutely
fantastic. So,
and I had the live in Ireland when he did that live, the whole album live in Ireland with all the Irish musicians. Oh,
yeah.
I still go back to Nebraska. It's still my favorite of them all up to this point.
But if you like Nebraska, you're gonna like Tom Joad, I think. Now
I have Tom Joad, and I'm kind of
it's funny because I compare that to because I compare those two, but Glenn was the same way. He's like, I don't like Tom Joad as much.
Yeah, it's not grown on me as fast as the others have. So,
but if you listen to the lyrics in that thing, it's like heartbreaking,
Sure.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to see him. I'm going twice in October.
And I've never seen him before. I'd love to see Bruce.
So yeah, I was saving Red Rider, but and then we're doing another round. So I looked over and a front-facing one for me. I don't know if you'd call them metal. We don't have a lot of metal in Canada, in the true genre of metal, I guess. But I'll go with Helix. Good band. Again, just great rock and roll. There's lots that I haven't mentioned, but there's some bands that I tried to mention tonight that I haven't, although I haven't done much lately on my channel. But these guys are good. Again, just kind of straightforward rock and roll. Their cover of A Foot in Cold Water, which is another Canadian band back into the early 70s, is fantastic. Make Me Do Anything You Want. But good stuff. And there was them. There was the Killer Dwarves were out around the same time as well. And Helix in some form or another. I'm not sure how many, if any, are left. But good stuff.
Have I ever told you my funny Brian Vollmer story?
I don't know if you have or not.
So Brian Vollmer, lead singer of Helix. Helix is from Kitchener, Ontario, very near where I live. And my buddy Bob, that was in Wilco, had a guitar store in Kitchener. And I used to hang out with Bob a lot at his shop. And one day, it was an afternoon in the summer, and I met Bob's guitar shop. And there's just me and Bob there. I'm sitting behind the counter with Bob at one of the workbenches because it was like a guitar repair shop. And this guy comes in to get an amp repaired. And this guy looks like he's, partied a lot. He was a pretty rough looking dude, but very nice. And Bob and him are shooting the shit. And I was talking to the guy too, shooting the shit. And he gets, whatever he needs to get done and leaves the amp there and leaves. And Bob looks at me and he goes, "You had no idea who that was, do you?" I'm like, "Should I?" He goes, "That's Brian Vollmer." I go, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Yep. So I met Brian Vollmer, but didn't know it was him when I was talking to him. So,
yeah, they're good. They're good. And I didn't go and find it, but honorable mention to Honeymoon Suite as well. I like Honeymoon Suite. Just good Canadian rock and roll.
I didn't know they were Canadian, actually. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. All right, Alex.
Yeah, well, just a couple of quick, where to go? Honorables. Maybe my favorite American artist ever, Frank Zappa. Just a gazillion albums, a genius maybe. Not for everybody, but absolutely one of my favorites. My actual favorite band of all time, didn't want to just, say too much just because I talk about them all the time, is Dream Theater out of New York, but they do have a Canadian singer, so there you go. And showing this one just because I love this album artwork. And we love a continuous gatefold. Rob, you were showing one earlier. The whole
lot of
there you
go.
Cool.
For your music theory fans out there, this is called Octavarium, and it's one of my favorites. But each of the buzz represents a note or like a key signature, and then the actual birds represent the incidentals. And so for those people who know about music, and the way they did this record, sorry, this is super nerdy, but this is who they are, and this blows my mind, is that it's called Octavarium because it's their 8th record, and so they wanted to focus everything on 8 and also 8 octave. And so what they did was it has 8 tracks, and it starts in the first song starts in F. The next song is in G. Next song is in A. Next song is in B. Next song is in C. Next song is in D. Next song is in E. And then closes out at the octave, Octavarium, the title track. And the birds actually do represent the incidentals. And so if you know in music theory, there is no B sharp and there is no E sharp. And so the actual balls that don't have the birds do not have the sharps.
That's cool. That's
very
cool.
That's awesome.
There's a lot of very odd, crazy conceptual stuff in that record.
Nerdy, but great. I love that.
John showed his jazz artist. I'll show mine. You know, Miles Davis got me into all things jazz. So arguably the most important jazz artist. And I just want to show this too. This was a Record Store Day thing from several years ago, but I think they reissued it because I just see it out all the time. And don't know if you have this, John, but you should. And that is Chicago, the Blues Today. This was like done by Kraft. It's got the whole Kevin Gray treatment stuff. So this is a triple LP comp of just all Chicago blues stuff. So
no, I don't have that.
It looks like this was all stuff that was on Vanguard, maybe. But yeah, Junior Wells, Chicago Blues Band, Otis Rush. It is. To me, I'm like, this was like the perfect thing. I was like, I'm looking to tip my toes into that scene, and then this came out. So, this is a pretty awesome comp. So,
yeah, that's awesome. I'll have to check that out.
Cool.
Yeah, there's something about like blues albums, and like I have a Muddy Waters that was like a Record Store Day release, but they're in there and they're kind of like bullshitting in between songs, and they kept it in the album. So you hear them kind of just bantering back and forth, having a good time in the studio, and then they just break into the song. So there's something about those type of albums that just bring you, like you're almost in the room with those guys, you know? So yeah, a lot of blues does that.
All right. I'm going to do a rapid fire here and wrap this up. Okay. A band I love called Cuff the Duke. They're a band from, we'll call it Toronto, but actually 2 of them live in my town. Another one lives just the next town over. But they're kind of, I guess they call themselves a Toronto band. These guys are kind of like Uncle Tupelo-ish, sort of, but very young guys. Last album they recorded was this one, which was called Union, in 2012, and have played a few sporadic shows since then. And then they just announced last month there's a new record coming out after not putting out an album in 12 years, and I am crazy excited about it. I've already pre-ordered it, and I know Wayne, the lead singer, and I know AJ, the drummer, and I messaged Wayne now, and man, I am just beyond thrilled that Cuff the Duke is putting out a new album. I don't think I talk about this person very much. This woman is Davnit Doyle. She is from, I think, Eastern Canada. It looks like her name should be pronounced Damnate, but it's Irish and it's pronounced Davnit. She's been around for 25 years. I saw her when she toured on her first album. She played the Grad Lounge at my university. Has put out several albums, and she's been parts of other bands. This is her most recent album, and I would just call it like kind of an adult contemporary kind of rock album, and it's very good. Has one of the best voices, I think. Her voice is just absolutely incredible. She's also in another band called The Heartbroken that has put out a couple rock albums, and just fantastic. 2 more, and then I'll shut up. A band I've talked about a lot because I think they're just one of the most incredible bands I've ever heard, Whitehorse. husband and wife, Luke Doucette and Melissa McClellan. They're from Sarah McLachlan's band. Had solo careers till they formed a duo. And they've put out, I think, almost 10 albums at this point, and every album is a different genre. There's a rock album, a folk album, a blues album, a psychedelic album, a country album, but they all still sound like Whitehorse, but they all sound like those genres, and it is incredible. This is their album from 2015 called Leave No Bridge Unburned, and I am lucky to own one of the couple test pressings that were made of that album. Now that leaves me to my favorite band from Canada. Anyone want to give me a drum roll? Anyone want to guess what this band is going to be?
I know.
No idea.
If Chance was here, he'd laugh at me. But I mean, I can't in good conscience talk about Canadian music without talking about the band that I absolutely love, Blue Rodeo.
We were waiting. I mean, it's like my Billy Joel. We know.
Right, of course.
Right.
I love these guys. Roots rock band. Been around for 40 years, unbelievably. One of the most successful bands domestically. They're in the Music Hall of Fame. They got a star on the Walk of Fame. Jim Cuddy and Greg Keeler, the two singer-songwriters, this year have been inducted into the Canadian Songwriter Hall of Fame. This is an incredible live album called Live at Massey Hall. Massey Hall is the most storied concert venue in Canada. It is kind of like the Ryman Auditorium is in the U.S. It's a 100-year-old theater in Toronto that is like the temple of music here. So this is a great live album from 2015 that's kind of career spanning in terms of the material that they played. But there is very few bands that resonate more with the Canadian cultural experience and craft that sort of Canadian sound than these guys do. So
Jim's got a new solo soon, I think, doesn't he?
I have it right over here, and it's very good.
There you go.
It's called All the World Fades Away, and I got it, and it had seam splits, and I'm in the discussions about getting them to replace it. But it's a very good album. It's a little different than Blue Rodeo, but it's probably his best solo record since his first one, All in Time. So I really dig it.
Right on.
Really, really dig it. We get caught up on a few comments, then we'll just find out what you guys are up to, and we'll wrap this thing up for the night.
Cool.
King of the VC says my collection might match John's, and John says we'll have to compare notes.
Yeah.
No Chilliwack. Yeah, I mean Chilliwack's a great band, but I don't own anything by Chilliwack. So
thought about it. They were on the possible list. Yeah.
Yep. I think of them in the same sort of class as April Wine in that, they're of that same sort of era, and you hear them all the time on the radio. And
yeah,
Trevor,
lots too. Yeah.
Yes, Trevor takes him back to junior high with Helix and Honeymoon Suite. Not surprised. Mind blown. Didn't know the details of Octavarium. Yeah, I think that's super cool. I like that. There's so much more. Wow. All I know is that it's a beautiful album. So there we go. Fun stream as always, Richard says. I wrote down a whole lot of new to me albums. Well, hope you enjoy them, man. That would be good. Let's go around the horn real quick. Tell us what if you got anything new you want folks to know about. Is there anything you're working on? Tell us anything you want to tell us. Promote your channel, and we'll do it in the order that we did it before. John, what you walking and talking about anything? You're muted, by the way. We can't hear you.
There we go.
There we go.
I'm like breaking wind like crazy over here. I don't want you guys hearing that. So,
hey, let one rip for the ratings, man. It would be hilarious.
I'll leave the mic on.
I have so many outtakes from videos where I'm just.
You got to put a video together. That'd be freaking.
I've thought about it because when I film my videos, I'm sitting on a guitar amp right in front of my camera. So they're made of wood, right? And they resonate nicely. So
I wonder how many people actually mute during a live stream just to let one rip off.
Who knows?
Who knows?
This is a fart-friendly zone, so let her rip, man.
Yeah. Okay. Next time I won't be so shy about it.
Don't. I want to see Alex lose his mind when somebody farts. So
Alex, leave the mic on. Bring us with you to the bathroom next time. That'd be awesome, dude. We're all family here now.
That's right.
That's how it goes. Yeah, I've been kind of slacking. I have a bunch of videos. I've been so busy with other things, I haven't been putting them out. So I still have videos I'm gonna be putting out where I have like a full beard. It's gonna be weird because you see me here and then I have a beard in the video. But I still have to put out. I did a review of the first 3 albums by XTC. Just a band that you hear all the time. I'm like, I got to check them out. So I figure as I get to know these bands, I'll go ahead and tell you what I think about them, kind of thing. So I'm working on that right now, and just have other things in mind. But I'm trying to get that content out because I'm just busy. But I love doing this, so I got to kind of squeeze it in, kind of thing. That's where my life's kind of changed a little bit. I put this priority, but I kind of had to change that up a little bit. But
you squeeze it in, and then when you have a fart, you squeeze it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a whole fart video. That's gonna be it.
Great.
Songs about farts. That's it. Yeah.
There you go. What's up with you, Joe? Aside from the record store?
Yeah, that's about it. I haven't done anything on my own personal channel for a long time.
We're gonna start calling you Jason Arsenault, I think.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Thankfully, you guys have been asking me to still come and do a little bit of this. I know we've got another thing planned in the future that I'm looking forward to because it was a blast last time. So, there is one for the store, but it's a little more straight-laced than I used to be or whatever. It's more, these are the things going on, and this is the new stock. So that's what's been going on. I don't know. I had some followers. I don't think anybody's necessarily missed me, but hopefully, hopefully you'll keep asking me to come do this stuff, Alex. We haven't done an after hours for a while. That one always was fun. So we should do one of those one day too. So that's about it. My favorite Japanese album. I'll show you my favorite Japanese album just because I wanted to get this in there. Look at this. Look at this beauty. Godzilla -1. It's the score. It's got blue Godzilla breath discs. It's awesome. That's my favorite Japanese album. It's not from Japan. Well, I guess it is actually. I don't know, but it's got like when you watch old Godzilla movies and there's the song in your head, it's got that on here. Anyway, I wanted to show my Godzilla record, so I did.
Very good.
What does the disc look like? Show it real quick. I want to see what that's like.
All right. It's actually it's a double disc. It's just the score. It's not like there was a soundtrack necessarily to Godzilla, but it's a couple of different kinds of blue. It's his breath, right? His atomic breath. So that's part of it, and then the other is a little darker blue. Is that one? So that's more Godzilla's atomic breath.
Yeah, those are nice.
Waxworks Records is the company. They do a lot of horror not soundtracks, again, more of the scores and things like that. They've got Dawn of the Dead. They've got some Halloween stuff. They got a lot of cool stuff. I would actually recommend looking up Waxworks Records. They've got some pretty cool stuff out there that they've been coming out with. So that was not a promotion or plug or anything. I just wanted to show my Godzilla record.
Cool.
I got a question. Are those high quality inner sleeves from Vinyl Storage Solutions?
Here we go.
They are no, they're not. But if a person wanted to get high quality inner sleeves from a vinyl
or outer sleeves, for that matter, they could go to vinylstoragesolutions.ca and use the promo code Northern10.
You got to do like 33 RPM. He just did a tour of the warehouse.
I know.
Come on, what do you?
Well, I don't live there, but
okay.
I talked to Jeremy on occasion, the owner. So
listen, in all honesty,
I talked to him last week, and they're sending me a prototype that no one has seen before. So
yeah, in all honesty, they have some very, very cool stuff and a great Canadian company. It's produced, I think, out of somewhere near Montreal or in Quebec, right? And then the main warehouse started in Winnipeg, stayed in Winnipeg. They ship all over the world. It is really good stuff. The inners happen to be a different brand, but
I figured it was, but I was just being a smart ass as I always do.
The outer though was 100% Vinyl Storage Solutions, and if you use the promo code Northern Revolutions 10,
just Northern 10.
Okay, I was trying to help you out there. So
that's all good. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I've done well on my commissions, I must say, from Vinyl Storage Solutions. So
Awesome.
nice of
That's
to say it doesn't cost me a lot to buy record sleeves. So thank
for
you,
you.
everybody. Alex, what do you got cooking?
Yeah, I just normal ish stuff. Got Rolling Stones concert review coming up. I don't know whose channel that's going to be posted on, but doesn't really matter. And then your typical kind of June finds and a bunch of other videos sort of in the works, and just need to record them and get all of it out and that sort of thing. So yeah, so good.
Good.
Very cool.
Well, for myself, my regular weekly video was I did a video which surprisingly nobody watched. It was far below what my normal viewership was, which surprised me. But I did a video about why I like vinyl records, because I had a conversation with a colleague last week about music, and records came up, and they're like, why do you like vinyl records? Because they didn't, and they're right. It's not exactly a practical medium by any means to listen to music. And they were just kind of interested in why I was so fascinated with vinyl records. So I did a video about that.
That's good.
And then the following day, which was Monday, was Canada Day. I did a video sort of celebrating Canada Day, and I did 5 songs that I think sort of resonate with the Canadian experience. So that's what's been going on. I have no idea what the video for the end of this week is going to be. I've been doing shorts every day, so where I actually play some of the records that I talk about. So
Yeah, I'm catching a lot of your shorts in my streams. I'm catching those.
I don't publish them in my subscriber feed because I know that it bothers people.
Piss
So
people off, yeah.
I don't do that, but I post a short every day of one of the records, and it's brought in some new folks, but I don't really care about that. It's just, we talk about these records, but then that actually gives me a chance that I can actually legally play a clip of some of these songs. And, I always do, I try to do, like the one I did last night was ABBA, because, it took off. And then I try to do one that, is somebody like, Cuff the Duke, for example, that no one's heard of. So I kind of alternate between them, and people seem to be liking them. So
yeah,
that's it. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Joe, John, thank you for stepping in and filling in for Jay and Sam. Who knows when we'll ever get the original lineup back together, but everyone's busy. It's summertime. So,
yep. Sam has a girlfriend. He's busy.
He's busy, young love. So,
yep.
But I'll be back next week. Alex, maybe, Jay, Sam, we'll be here. There'll be a group of us meeting again at the same time, same place next week. So Thank you, everybody, for watching, all the regulars and everyone else that tuned in. We appreciate that you spend a couple hours listening to us guys ramble about something that we think we're experts on. So thanks for your time, and thanks, guys, for joining me. A pleasure as always.
Thank you for asking. Anytime, and take off, eh?
Take off, eh? Good night, everybody.
Beauty, eh?